I just see your post about the show, and yes, maybe Michael will actually let me say something this week. Yes, when I rewatched last week, 2 weeks ago show, I was like, man, I did not let Joey talk at all.
No, you did not.
You were just kind of like,
I'm just here because, believe it or not, the voice of Powerbomb Weekly, Mr. Kevin Chambers, is all about that karaoke.
I would suspect that Kevin would be all about the karaoke. Yes,
it's actually really good too. He actually sang at my wedding.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Not that he's hearing or seeing this right. He's actually running around Port Orchard looking at Christmas lights.
Is he just like...
No, yeah, that'd be funny to watch Kevin running like this.
That'd be a better show than this. Yes.
No, he's driving around. He loves Christmas almost as much as you do.
I don't know if that's humanly possible. I think the only person who loves Christmas more than me is Santa.
Hey, it's 5 o'clock. You know what that means. It's time to start the show that nobody watches.
Yay! No one's even... Well, we did start early, and we're going on time, and we're prepared and ready, and we have a lot to talk about, so naturally, no one's going to watch the show.
They'll watch the recap.
Yes. Speaking of which, are we doing a show next week? Because isn't next week Christmas, or the week after?
It is the day after Christmas. We are not doing a show next week.
So, heads up for everybody, we will not be doing a show next week for the holidays. Wait, am I wrong?
I think we have...
Yeah, because it's only the 12th. It would be the 19th next week.
Yeah, we'll do one next week.
So we will not be having a show on the 26th.
No, we're going to... And we will probably...
Not be having a show on the 2nd either.
We may or may not, depending
We'll see. I don't drink party anymore for New Year's Eve.
You know, we may want to talk about New Year's Day.
Yeah, we will probably need to talk about New Year's Day, honestly, because that's going to be a show.
Yeah, we'll probably just skip the 26th, but we'll keep you in mind. And maybe during the break we'll post some old. Anyway, you ready to start the show?
I'm ready. Are we ready?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's edition of Powerbomb Weekly, brought to you in part by
Radio.
Kitsap Great Escape, the only escape room in Kitsap County. On this week's show, the guys talk about Jeff Hardy getting fired from WWE. Mike compares NXT UK to Ring of Honor. Johnny Wrestling and Kyle O'Reilly say goodbye. And Joey and Mike do a deep dive on Joni Lauer, better known as Chyna. But first, let me introduce to you your hosts. This host is like Christmas. He's the gift that keeps on giving. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Michael Burnett. And his co-host. This man has been fired more times than Jeff Hardy. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joey Marcello.
Oh, wait, no.
Remember, tonight's show brought to
you Please, we want to keep our audience.
Escape, the only escape room in Kitsap County. Book your room today, or
Pleasant.
make some time for that special holiday party. Visit KitsapGreatEscape.com. And now, ladies and gentlemen, on with tonight's show.
Carol of the Bells is probably one of my favorite Christmas
Love
ones.
that. Thank you very much, Kevin, for that wonderful intro. I'm glad to see that everyone is in the festive spirit as much as I am coming into the holiday season.
Yeah, so Kevin was underwater when he did that.
I was like, is this being brought to us by Old Time Radio?
No, so Kevin sent me a really bad copy of his intro, and I asked him to make a new one, but there was no time. So I just basically held my phone to his... and it's a third party. It's a third party. Okay. But we got the thing, and I put the music in there.
Yeah, no, I love it. It sounds great, man. That's like our intros are like the highlight of the show. It's the most produced thing I think we do at this point, right?
Right, because I stopped doing all the production on all the videos.
That's fine. That's fine.
But I still make this show. Yeah. So it was Merry Christmas.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good.
What is your favorite Christmas carol?
Favorite Christmas carol? Oh man. Favorite Christmas carol. I mean, I still like some of the classics, I like Jingle Bells. Jingle Bells is definitely up there.
Jingle Bells is actually a Thanksgiving song?
don't ruin this for me. Okay? I mean, I still like some of the classics, like "Rocking Around the Christmas Tree." That's always good.
Rudolph and
I
Frosty.
like Rudolph and Frosty. Yeah, I mean, even though it's not my bag, I still kind of like Holy Night and like Little Drummer Boy and some of the more religious tones of the Christmas songs. But I like Solstice. You know that's pretty good too. Yeah, the Bells one. Yeah,
Carol of the Bells is my favorite.
Carol of the Bells. Yeah.
Followed by Silent Night.
Yeah.
Something peaceful about that one. Anyway, so as always, hey, don't sue us. We don't have any money. All right, so let's start with a couple fun memes. You kind of got a couple of you got a little glimpse.
This is gonna be a show.
You got a glimpse of a couple of them.
It's gonna be a low show.
So I didn't see this episode of AEW, but apparently Mysterioso. I don't know if this is the meme or this really happened. So I didn't have power the week before, so I had a whole week missing.
This is why we didn't have a show last week. Joey was out for 80 plus hours.
With no power. But somebody apparently combined Rey Mysterio and Scott Steiner and created a wrestler.
Okay.
And then, as we're going to talk about in a little bit, AEW was from New York, where his mom and dad and where he's from, and Mom didn't disappoint with a nice song that says...
This is the best gimmick in wrestling right now, is MJF versus his parents.
And it goes on Twitter, hardcore, too.
Oh, yeah.
This is the last time our son was an asshole. It's a picture of him when he's like 5.
Beautiful. Is that where he went and sang for Rosie O'Donnell?
Probably. I need to find that clip.
Oh, I've watched it. I had to watch it.
I think the Power Bombers need to see it.
You need to see this clip? Yeah, wait for our show. If not, you can always see it on YouTube. But MJF on Rosie O'Donnell singing Captown Races, I believe, to her.
It was beautiful.
Hence why CM Punk referenced it and made fun of him in their first promo cut.
All right. Next up we have, Rose to the Top. You're just a less famous Mr. and Mrs.
Yeah.
It is absolutely the same show.
It is. And when we get to AEW, we'll elaborate on this more, but...
It's about them having a baby together is exactly what Mr. and Mrs. was about.
Yep.
It's about... But the only difference is Miz is a mid-carder, where Cody is...
Oh, you're acknowledging Miz's failure as WrestleMania main event against John Cena a decade ago?
He's still a mid-carder. And then, so people if you do a Google search, apparently Jason Jordan does show up as Kurt Angle's son. Love Google. Misinformation is the best.
Great.
And then, all right. So first on this side, Virgil. Nobody apparently. To be fair, this is probably at the very beginning of the con before anybody started.
I don't think that's true.
Well, there's nobody else in any of the other lines.
That's because everybody's already come in and they are not all about it. But Virgil apparently gets no love. Also, speaking of Virgil, did you see the recent Twitter thing that he had with Cornette where Cornette said something and then Virgil just went off on him and was calling himself the marinara of the meatball with his meat stick that was meant to lay down 100 pounds on any lady from the Olive Garden who wanted to be a part of his
wow.
He is all about talking about how big his dong is and how much he loves Olive Garden.
But I love Olive Garden. Don't do that to me.
The best part about that too is Cornette said exactly what I thought, where it's where was this character at when he was on TV 20 years ago?
All right, and then over here, if you can't see it really well, only your former tag partner and best friend can dethrone you for the longest reigning championship. So you have Bayley,
Bayley and Sasha.
Sasha dethroned Bayley, and then you have Kenny Omega and Cowboy, and Cowboy dethroned Kenny Omega, and then you have Roman Reigns and Seth, and of course 404 not found.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about Seth. He's got a couple things he wants to talk about Seth Rollins.
Yeah, we're going to have to talk about Seth here in a minute.
When we get to Raw.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not going to talk about War Games, hardly at all.
Yeah, we're going to gloss War Games pretty hard.
So this picture is what I wanted from War Games. This, crazy enough, this is the actual,
this is from their site.
Black and gold versus the rainbow puke.
Yes.
That's what I wanted.
Isn't it actually called the Rainbow brand now?
Yeah, the Rainbow brand.
Okay.
But...
War Games kind of sucked, yo.
It got a lot. Meltzer was very generous with his ratings.
So let's kick it off. So first off, I just want to start with this. We have the ladies' War Games match to kick off the show, okay?
Which is what they always do.
Why do they have to fuck up War Games? Like, first off, this is dumb for what they did. They had the people come down and they got in their cages, and their cages was in the stands, okay?
Which was...
So one, that's dumb. Two, as a company, you just had one of your wrestlers attacked by a fan because they broke the barricade. So your idea was to put the wrestlers in a cage in the stands.
Yeah, but
also, doesn't that go to show how non-afraid now non-interested or invested the people are that they wouldn't try and attack the heels in the stands because you literally just put the people they don't like right beside of them.
So I was bored during watching NXT.
Okay. Oh yeah, me too.
And
I built models the whole time.
So I actually paid attention. There's only 5 rows.
It doesn't matter.
No, listen.
Okay.
And in the front you have about 20 seats. So you have about 100. So there's maybe a maximum of 200 people. And when you see the behind-the-scene pictures of Gargano and Ciampa hugging each other in the ring, you can see that the whole hard cam has nothing. It is empty. There are no fans. It is an open... So the people that are here, those 150 to maybe 200 fans, are the family and friends of the wrestlers.
Yes, they're the local family, friends, attendees, person, stuff like that. I get that. But the message you're sending across is that let's just put our wrestlers 2 inches from our fans and lock them in a cage, and we're not afraid that something would happen on a legitimate level. And also, they're so uninteresting that the fans wouldn't be throwing their drinks and popcorn at the heels because they don't care. That was dumb. Also, let's talk about the fact that they started off War Games the same stupid-ass way TNA liked to do when they ripped off War Games, where you had the good guy, and then the bad guy, and then the good guy get in the ring. So your fighting heel has to fight back against your evil, oppressive, beat-up baby faces.
It was horrible.
Dusty is rolling in his grave in a 3,000-degree circular motion right now because of everything bad that's been happening in his name recently.
The only thing that you need to know about the female War Games is hold on. Kaylee Ray jumped off the top of the ring. She twisted.
No, it wasn't Kaylee Ray. It was
Cora Jade.
It was Cora Jade.
So Cora Jade jumped off the top of the ring.
Yes.
With her shoulder first, for whatever reason.
But it was...
Sold it as injured.
Yes.
And tried to crawl out of the ring to get... And then Io Shirai said, no, I'll fix it for you. And then proceeded to pull it further out of socket instead of putting it into socket. Because anybody who's watched any more movie knows you need to pop it back in, not pull it further out.
Yes, she yanked it further out of socket, which was dumb.
And then she went...
watched Lethal Weapon... Like, just watch Mel Gibson slam his shoulder into a wall and pop it back in. This was bad.
And then she gets the pin.
Well, that's all
you need to know.
To be true on it, that was an okay story that the new kid who has a skateboard, because the new kid on the other show has to have a skateboard, so naturally we have to have a skateboard person on our show. And since she's 20, she has to be a perfect skateboarder as well, too. But the new kid took a high risk, got hurt, but because she was able to capitalize on it, they're building a story. I'm okay with that.
I believed it for the first 5 minutes.
When the match itself fired, though, just curious, did you... I don't know if I've seen a match with, toys involved that had more fed shots than I have seen in this woman's match.
Smooth.
Every single person in this match, when they swung back to hit... because it's the E, they have to have kendo sticks, they have to have whatever.
The other person jumped into it?
Got into position to get hit with it, or when they went to swing, the person, fed themselves up so they could hit them in the stomach, and they had to readjust when they went to hit them. This was an awful, awful match, and I felt bad for all the women. And yes, at first, with Cora Jade, I thought, one, that was dumb. You just, you just broke your shoulder.
I believed she was hurt.
I thought she was hurt, too.
Until Io...
Loved it. Believed it until Io got involved and was like, I got you, boo, and then ripped her shoulder out of socket even more. And then I went, okay, this is all... As soon as Io started to drag her back into the ring, I went, oh, she's fine. But she took that bump. I thought she was legit hurt. 100% thought she had just broken her shoulder. But yeah, overall, this match sucked. She got the pin over, what's her name?
Mandy.
No, she didn't beat Mandy. She beat JC Jane.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, because Dakota also, Dakota's horrible. I hate Dakota Kai. I hate her even more every time I see her, and I don't know if it's possible for me to hate her any more than I will hate her next week, but I will continue to hate her. She's bad. Gigi Dolan, who some of you might remember is famous as the female wrestler who pulled the bloody tampon out of her tights and shoved it in another girl's mouth on an indie show. She's okay. It was staged. She's okay. JC's not great either. And yeah, really the only person in this match on the heel side that's good is Mandy Rose, and that's passable at best.
Yeah, we talked more about War Games than I planned on.
Yeah, well, this was a 31-minute match. Moving on, Fabian Eichner and Marcel Marceau fought Kyle O'Reilly and Von Wagner. No! Von Wagner and Kyle broke up! Why?
But before that, it was the only good match of the night.
This
felt like NXT.
Was a freaking great match. It started off a little slow, but this match was 1,000% saved by 3 people, and one of them is not Von Wagner.
No. This felt like NXT.
Eichner, Bartel, and Kyle O'Reilly had an amazing match, and then they had Von Wagner in there, and then Von Wagner, apparently is evil, because sure.
But they smiled at each other before they turned.
They did.
It was the dumbest thing.
Kyle's the one who takes the pin, and then he gets back on Wagner, and then Kyle cuts a promo that says, this is the first time in 5 years I haven't been in the War Game. War Games you don't win a championship in, dude. You were just in a championship match. So it's like, this was... The storytelling here was awful. I'm so broken up that once again, the smashed together team of the babyfaces, because in the WWE universe, there's the New Day and the Street Profits, and everybody else who's a team is on the verge of breaking up. Who's a babyface? All the heel teams get along.
As you like to say.
Yeah. Cameron Grimes defeated Duke in a hair versus hair match. This match was
passable.
Passable at best. They didn't know what they were doing with each other. No. And honestly, Grimes did about 3 of the same spots in the entire match again and again and again, because I just don't think Duke was getting it. He's a big guy. It's whatever. End of the match, Cameron Grimes wins. He goes to shave Duke's head. Duke says no, goes to shave Cameron's head. Cameron says no, beats up Duke, throws him back in the chair, runs the scissors across his head about 2 or 3 times and gets done. He also hit him in the side right here and freaking cut his head when he went to do it. We're going to talk about injuries as soon as this is done, but I told my wife, because she was like, why the hell is he trying to buzz cut his hair like that? And I was like, well, one, Duke picked it up and kicked the extension out on it, so when Grimes went to shave his head, he wasn't taking anything off, so he jammed it down in his head, and the only thing it reminded me of is, did you ever see the hair versus hair match with Raven in TNA, where they screwed up and had the clippers backwards and ran it down Raven's head and ripped his scalp open and he was bleeding all over the place? I was so hoping that was going to happen. Also, is Duke Hudson's name Duke Hudson, or is his name Duke's Poker Room?
I don't.
Because all of the vignettes for him say Duke's Poker Room, not Duke Hudson.
I did think, though, I was really worried, because I did think this was going to be all the black and gold was going... The color was going over the black and gold for everything. That's what I really thought was going to happen.
Yeah. The splatter was going to overtake the black and gold.
Because especially when Cameron Grimes came down and his chest hair was all shaved down, real trim, I was like, oh.
Yeah, he's already prepped to get it shaved off. But yeah, it made sense. I assume, I don't know, whatever. Moving on, Roderick Strong defeated Joe Gacy for the NXT Cruiserweight Champion.
And nobody cared.
No one cared. This match was not good. I feel very bad for Roddy. I like Diamond Mine.
I didn't think he was going over.
I did not think he was going over. And then
he hit the girl.
Yeah, and then Parker Bordeaux, the new psychopath, the Brock Lesnar clone, who is now the Festus clone, grabbed a hold of the girl, and Joe Gacy had to tell him, no, don't do this.
This is a safe space.
It's safe space. It's okay. And then Parker stood there all crazy like. And then Joe Gacy lost. This match sucked. End of the night, we had the men's War Game match. Braun Breaker, Carmelo Hayes, Grayson Waller, and Tony D'Angelo defeated Johnny Gargano, LA Knight, Pete Dunne, and Tommaso Ciampa. The first 10 minutes of this match was not good, and then the last 12 and a half minutes of this match was awesome. We see Tommaso's the last guy left standing around after everything, and then Braun ends up slamming him through a table as Tommaso was going to do the fairy tale ending onto some fucking body. I don't know who they are. And Braun ends up doing the big press slam on him and defeating Tommaso Ciampa, which is good for the story.
Because you've dropped the F-bomb 3 times already.
Oh, I'm sorry. Merry Christmas, everybody. So, yeah, this was a thing. The thing I want to talk about this, so match 1, Raquel Gonzalez gets her face busted open. Match 2, I'm pretty certain O'Reilly got busted open in the mouth. Match 3, Cameron Grimes mutilates part of Duke Hudson's head. I don't think anyone was bleeding in Roderick Strong in the Joe Gacy match. The final match, let's see, Johnny Gargano, bleeding. LA Knight, bleeding. Braun Breaker, bleeding. Has stitches in his eye now. I want to say that Tony D'Angelo got busted open. I think Carmelo Hayes got busted open. Carmelo Hayes' buddy, Trick, got himself busted open on the outside of the ring trying to put toys in the ring because I think the table hit him in the face. So half of your roster just got their faces busted open and blood open for a crap show.
We are
skip War Games.
We've lost the days of TakeOver. And last year's War Games was on free TV, wasn't it?
No.
No, it wasn't? Okay.
Wait.
Wasn't it?
No.
Okay.
No, but something Bash. Bash was live, yeah.
This just shows you where we're going. It's crazy. 2 years ago, we were talking about how NXT was the best thing on TV.
Yeah.
And now we're like,
what have you done to our poor child? You literally.
Did you see? And so the crazy thing is,
yeah.
Well, actually, I'll say to it here now. I won't wait till we get to the NXT show itself. Shawn Michaels came out and said, everybody keeps thinking it's because Triple H isn't here. We're doing the vision that Triple H had, which is such a BS answer.
No,
it's such a BS answer.
I do not think that this is his vision.
This is nobody's vision. All right, so
also at the end, Johnny Gargano says bye to everybody. We'll talk more about that when he comes to NXT because he had an official one. But Johnny Gargano, they used a Twitter clip that someone had put up where he basically said, we'll echo it later in the show, but he said, hey, I've done all I can. I'm beat up. I got a bunch of stuff coming up in my own personal life. I'm going to have a baby for the first time. I'm just, thanks everybody for coming out. Came up short tonight. I'll talk to you on Tuesday.
And Roderick Strong did go out on his back. Not Roderick Strong, but Kyle O'Reilly did go out on his back. As a wrestler does. All right, so breaking news. Let's
break some news.
Last night was our Ring of Honor's final battle.
Yes, it was. They had some interesting things happen here. Before this show fired, what was it, about 2 days, the news broke that Tony Khan said that he would allow heavy support for Ring of Honor from AEW.
FTR confronts the Briscoes.
Holy! As Jim Ross would say, business is about to pick up.
Now, we're going to talk about FTR's previous match later on this evening.
Yes.
Oh my God. FTR versus the Briscoes is a dream.
Absolutely.
And they said that's the last tag team they feel they have to beat to fill their legacy.
Yeah.
Agree. And then EC3 came out and said, release the Titan. And the Titan was released.
Adam Sheriff, or whatever his name is, because they made sure to not... the best part about this is that the Ring of Honor people, who are basically the C-level people, their announcers did not screw up and call him Braun Strowman 15 times because Chris Jericho was not on commentary. They actually called him
Adam
Shear, not it's Braun Shear or Adam
Titan,
whatever.
And then he goes, apparently it's Titan now because that's what EC3. So apparently him and EC3
are buds.
He's now EC3's enforcer, and there's people all over the internet crapping about this angle. It's like, well, why is that? Well, first of all, EC3 doesn't really need an enforcer. The dude is jacked for days. He looks like Scott Steiner.
I mean, EC3 has really molded his body into an amazing specimen over the last few years. I really like. I think his run in WWE was not very fair at all.
But I think someone as creative as him could do amazing things with Titan.
Well, yeah, because Adam here is not the greatest on the stick. You know, he needs something to be there, and also, I mean, it has been a few months, and he's not going to be able to. The thing I have with this is that we have only seen Titan as a WWE creation.
Mm-hmm.
I do not think on the indie circuit for where they're going or what they're going to do, he is going to be able to perform at that level of a style of match that those fans are accustomed to.
Right.
So he is going to have some, some drapes put around him, and having EC3 there absolutely makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I mean, his whole catchphrase, "Catch these hands," was an accident.
Yeah. I mean, it's get these. Is it get these hands?
Yeah, you're going to get these hands.
Get these hands.
It was kind of an accident. So, those are two of the really amazing things that happened at Final Battle. When Final Battle becomes available to watch for free, I'm going to look at it. The Grisham Jay Lethal match was apparently amazing. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and we have a cleansed world title, according to them, from the Ring of Honor show. So, I mean, I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what Sinclair's going to do with it. I don't know what they're going to do with the company. But
well, here's the official... Oh, and, sorry, last breaking news before we get to Ring of Honor.
Black screen?
This came out 2 days ago.
I don't understand what I've done wrong. I haven't done anything wrong.
You didn't.
I think obviously people aren't ready to see someone like me.
I agree.
Is that Pinocchio?
Yeah, it took me a second listening to it to realize that I'm pretty certain he's using Unsainted by Slipknot. That beginning intro that they have there. It's just a little bit modified through it. I liked that a lot. This leads me to ask this question. How much of the Bray Wyatt entity does Wyndham Rotunda own? Also, how much of it is he going to be allowed to parody into this new character that he is presenting? Because are we going to see him in a new company? And much like back in the day, are we going to get a cease and desist from Vince and them, and like Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, and saying, hey, he's using too much of our intellectual property. Granted, he used it, performed it, played it, cultivated, created it here, but he used it under our banner. This is our stuff. He cannot do Sister Abigail. He cannot do this or that with it.
Well, I think like...
This had no tag of where or what that meant.
Right, no.
That did not say Ring of Honor, TNA. It did not say AEW. It didn't say WWE.
For all we know, it could be about his movie.
It could be his movie. We don't know what it meant.
But the things that I did see is I don't know what I did wrong. I don't know why these things are saying these things about me. Interesting. And then you do have like the Pinocchio doll, which to me is kind of like a funhouse, just like a little nod to it.
You saw the dancing girl in the background, clearly meant to be Alexis, Sister Abigail kind of style hybrid.
So the weird thing about this is, and everybody, what I'm reading online, and when I do my research, is during AEW Dynamite this week, once or twice during the show, the lights just went red for a second and kind of dimmed for a second.
Yes.
So everybody, of course, is jumping on, and then this came up like the next day.
Yeah.
So everybody's jumping on, oh, well, obviously this is Bray Wyatt. Here's the problem. This can't be Bray Wyatt in AEW.
Yes.
It can't. Because it's already Malachi Black.
Well, yes, but...
Because that is all...
But is...
Bray going to be House of Black?
Possibly. Or maybe they're gonna have him. I don't know. I don't know. How
It's just
this
too
fits.
close to Malachi Black's character with the.
And if they have two of them, as we talked about the last time with Buddy Murphy coming in, having disciples and things like that really kind of waters it down. And I don't know if having. I think if you have Bray come in and be like the founder or the father of the House of Black, it kind of dilutes Malachi.
Exactly. Right now, you already have if Bray Wyatt shows up, then you have 4 creepy entities in AEW. You've got the Dark Order, which is no longer creepy; it's more of a comedy act. But let's just
There's
go with
no
it.
reason it's the Dork Order.
Yeah. So you have the Dark Order. You have Malachi Black, House of Black. You cannot not say Darby Allin and Sting because they're the dark and broody and the face.
I'll give you a halvesies on that.
Yeah, and then if you had this,
Yeah.
so I mean, it's
Yeah.
Back in the day, you could have said Butcher and the Blade, but now Butcher and the Blade are part of Hardy's House of
the
Fun
question-
House.
I mean, I guess the thing with that is going to be is it going to be like CM Punk where he's only going to be on one show, really? Is he just going to be the Malachi Black of the other show?
I don't know. There's so many. Now you know what? That's the cool part is. It's got us asking those questions.
People are asking questions about what does this mean for Bray, William Rotunda, Wyatt.
All right. So with that being said, let's go ahead and go finish up with the Ring of Honor thing.
Yep.
Moving on.
Moving on.
All right. So Ring of Honor, Sin Cara broadcast shuts down Ring of Honor Wrestling to reevaluate business. They will shut down next year for at least 3 months while the company reevaluates their business plan. Now, on the same token, back in September, WWE quietly shut down its UK company when they did the Japan and India. But it's also came out that the WWE is not shutting down NXT UK despite dissolving the UK holdings.
Interesting, isn't it?
There is no definitive, because if you Google right now, when is NXT UK quitting, it gives you articles about it gives you COVID articles.
Yes. I think the thing that they're trying to figure out right now is how do we get Volter and Ilya Dragunov over here on a permanent basis. And since we can't do that right now, and we don't want them going anywhere else, and you, as you pointed out, you also do have to look at the fact that the COVID laws and travel restrictions and everything in the other countries are way different than ours for things right now. I think that they're trying to continue some form of a working relationship with this brand until they can figure out how to get the talent that they want out of it and then separate.
Because
and as I said, this is very much like a combination of Ring of Honor. You have some of the best talent in the world that nobody's heard of on a show that is being broadcast that no one's watching, that the company is basically not supporting anymore.
Right, and it's a 1-hour show on both sides, right? NXT UK 1 hour.
Yeah.
And Ring of Honor is 1 hour, so you get 2, maybe 3 good. It's basically like Dynamite. You get 2, maybe 3 matches that are of decent quality, if not good quality. Ring of Honor looked a lot better. Ring of Honor decided not to wrestle during COVID, and when they came back with the Pure tournament, there were some really good.
There absolutely was.
Great
We talked
matches.
about that a lot.
But again, Ring of Honor is just one of those things that I'm not going to go out of my way to watch because it's on at midnight on a Saturday night here.
Well, the other thing, going back with NXT UK that happened with that is when we all got the cock, it became very difficult to find things on it. Finding NXT UK is not always easy to do on the cock.
So you have 2 great shows that are not getting any support by their companies.
Yes.
And again, right now, Ring of Honor is going out of business, and MLW and AEW have said, we'll let some of you come play in our backyard, keep up your skills, but we can't take you all. And, CZW and AAA is going to take some of them all because AAA had a lot of people wrestling there.
Yes.
And that's great. NXT UK goes under. New Japan?
Well, no, the UK still has a good amount of... I'm not sure what's still active over there for companies. I'm pretty certain like
Rev
ICW, probably Rev, probably Evolve, I would imagine is still... Because I know WWE absorbed some of those entities to get hold of the television tapings for presenting their people, like we've seen with Drew McIntyre, Keith Lee, and others that wrestled in these promotions that they have tapes for that you can watch on the network now too. Like they still have up their best of Keith Lee in Evolve and like their best of Daniel Bryan in where WCXW or wherever it's at. So they do own some of those things. So I'm not 100% certain what the UK independent promotions that aren't affiliated into the NXT UK brand are operating in a separate capacity of right now. Maybe I'll do a little bit of reading on that one and kind of get back to you.
Taylor Bate, Dragunov, Walter. I mean, these are 3 great examples of wrestlers that need a home and should be broadcasted.
They should be, yes. And I've said it, and I think a lot of people echo it. I think Walter is probably the single greatest threat that they could put in front of Roman Reigns. Because he is legitimately talented. He's an amazing athlete. And despite when you first look at his physique, the man is incredibly intimidating for how he moves and performs. He looks like an old wrestler. And he grinds people down. And he can pick people up and powerbomb them like it ain't nothing. So he is just a bear of a human being. Dragunov, as we've talked about, I thoroughly believe that Dragunov would probably translate very, very well on a SmackDown Raw roster.
If they let him be him.
How could you not let the Russian be the Russian? He's their only legitimate first-time Russian champion. I think he's the first-time Russian.
Maybe they'll bring his fake wife on TV and have her have an affair with Bobby Lashley.
Well, he was Bulgarian. So, the Bulgarian brute.
I'm just saying.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
You don't dare WWE to screw up Walter.
The problem with that for Walter and Dragunov is that I don't know of anybody on that roster except for maybe Seth Rollins, AJ Styles, and, I'll give it to him, Drew Gulak, and who else?
The Miz.
No. I was going to say that could wrestle their style.
Oh.
I don't think anybody could have a match with them.
I can think of like 5 people who just released.
I mean, well, yeah. Karrion Kross, Keith Lee. Moving on.
So now is the part that we're going to talk about Jeff.
All right, let's talk about Jeffrey Hardy.
So
Jeffrey Hardy has been sent home from WWE tour after a
rough night.
On a Twitch stream Monday afternoon, Matt Hardy said that he spoke to his brother and that Jeff is at home and okay. Matt declined to go into any details about what happened or why his younger brother was reportedly sent home from the WWE weekend house shows, saying it's not his story to tell.
Which I think is the best thing Matt Hardy could ever have done.
Jeff Hardy, released by WWE after declining rehab offer.
So
this is a source.
Yeah.
So we don't know how much that's true. And unfortunately...
And there was one other article that came out from Jeff Hardy's wife saying he's home and he's safe. And that's basically
that's that. I had... So... Did you watch the footage?
I watched the footage.
Let's start there.
I watched the footage. I saw the footage. I couldn't get the footage to show other people.
Okay. So, for those of you who want to go watch the footage, you can find it. It's out there. But essentially, they're having a tag team match with Drew McIntyre, Hardy against the Bloodline, Jimmy and Jey Uso. In that match, Hardy gets a hot tag. He tags Drew, and then he rolls out of the ring and walks through the crowd and walks out of the building. And you clearly see security chase after him as if that's not good.
Now,
and then
you don't ever see his rough night. Right? Like you don't like some people are like, oh, he was kind of slow and he's kind of lethargic. There's no footage of that I could find.
Yeah, there's no footage of that I've been able to see other than like the 10 seconds before and then the aftermath of the walkout, okay? They then decide to send Rey Mysterio down to complete the match, essentially, okay? The thing with that is, when I first saw that, I said to myself, well, he might have got his bell rung because everybody on the interwebs was immediately like, oh, Jeff's fucked up again. I did not want to go there because I didn't want to have that immediate thought process for it. And then the sequence of events was probably as fast as news could get out as how quickly it broke.
The other thing that was on the footage was Drew McIntyre legitimately was like, what? just happened.
Yeah.
He's like, where did you go? Why are you?
Jeff Hardy's had lots of substance abuse problems in the past. He definitely... The thing with Hardy that we've talked about is Hardy has not altered his wrestling style in 25 years, and he desperately should have done it about 10 years ago, and he probably would not be in as much pain as he is in now. He's probably in a lot of pain for that style of wrestling that he's done for a long time. Also, unfortunately with this, it seems like anytime Jeff is about to get a big major push, which had come out that he was about to go into a program with Roman Reigns, Jeff starts to have issues. And I thought this legitimately, and someone online put it out before we did our show, which also led to Baron Corbin being very angry at this person. But I thought, the Hardys aren't dumb. Did Jeff know that if he just started acting erratic and having issues and being strange and weird in the back and walk out on a show and they say, hey, Jeff, we think you're off the wagon. We'd like you to go check into rehab. And he goes, no, I'm good. And they go, well, we're going to release you if you don't go to rehab. And he said, okay, that's cool. Did Jeff do that to get out of his contract?
There's a lot of people think that. Can you shut the door?
I know that's a terrible thing.
So
I think I think it's an ignorant thing to think, but I'm not going to lie and say that I didn't think that, because regardless of what you think about the hometown Hardys, they're not dumb people.
And
they're very smart.
Here's the other thing. Jeff is on an extension. Jeff should have been released already.
Yes.
He could have
re-signed.
Oh, did he re-sign?
He had re-signed a long-term deal, apparently.
So so Dad's like, I think he did it on purpose. I think he's just trying to. He sees that he could have more creative. Because there's also the rumor that he wanted to bring Willow in. He wanted to do all these other things.
He wanted to bring the Willow the Wisp. The problem that I have with that is the narrative that's gone out now is that you're back on the sauce. And if that's the case, what value do you have to Tony Khan now that you have now publicly been addressed as someone who's suffering from addiction problems again?
Well, here's the problem. When he makes his statement,
yeah,
then we'll know.
But is Jeff Hardy's legacy so tainted by his multiple drug and alcohol problems that has happened in the past? Obviously, we've gone back to TNA Victory Road.
Right.
There's also the federal indictment thing that happened. There's also the drinking and driving incident that happened not a while back. Like,
what if he just comes out and says, like, "Hey, I had anxiety."
I don't know.
Because if he says that, you can't.
Yeah,
that's one of the things you can't push.
What value does Jeff Hardy have now with his legacy and career if the story that's being presented is that he's...
Well, what if he told Matt, "Hey Matt, this is what's going to happen. Make sure that everybody at the new company knows."
The problem with that is that as soon as in wrestling, if one person knows, as soon as the second person knows, the entire locker room knows.
I understand that. I'm not defending Matt Hardy, or I'm not defending Jeff. I'm just, if we're going to play the devil's advocate, play the devil's advocate all the way around. Nobody knows what happened.
No.
And the other, so I have always felt like when it comes to anything in this world, whether it be Jeff Hardy, whether it's O.J. Simpson, whether it's anything out there, if you're...
I was like, that's a big trail, man. Get me on the bridge.
If you're innocent, don't run from it and get in front of it.
Yeah.
The whole time I was in the Navy, it's like, if you're innocent and you didn't do it, get in front of it. Never be the senior man to have a secret. Tell people before they find out.
Yeah.
So, the longer he sits in whatever limbo he's in right now, the longer more people are going to go, oh, well, obviously he did something wrong and now he's trying to come up with a good excuse.
Well, I mean... Yeah, and I'd say, unlike some of the guys we'll talk about in a minute here, I know he's still under his non-compete clause, but I don't know. It's really sad. It's really sad if Hardy's...
Oh my gosh, my dad's watching.
Oh, well, hello. It's really sad that if Jeff is having addiction problems again, that they've resurfaced, especially in such a public manner for how it's gone for him. I hope that that's not the case, or... the thing about that is that I find interesting is that the article said that his backstage behavior had no reflection on their decision. So how can you say that he's been offered rehab and declined it, but none of the they've had no problems with him backstage. So it's like, how can you confront someone for addiction and say you need help, but then also say, well, there's nothing going on backstage that we have an issue with? Like, that's such a weird statement to have come out from them. And again, this is from a source that says he declined rehab. There's been no official statement from WWE.
Anybody.
There's been no official statement from the Hardy compound.
The closest official statement is from Matt. On
and
Hardy.
his wife, who said, hey, Jeff's home, he's good.
Yeah.
So if again, Jeff, if you're suffering, please get help and hope for a speedy recovery. If this is not what's happening to you, we eagerly await your statement on what is going on in the world of Jeffrey Hardy.
All right, so I had to throw this in there. So we're going to jump ahead to storylines a little bit, just a little bit.
That's fine.
Because we have to. If you saw SmackDown, then you're just going to love this picture.
Raiden showed up.
So we used to NXT when it was good. We questioned this. We made fun of it. It worked, but we just goofed on it.
I would not say that it worked.
We goofed on it.
Was what we thought when we saw this storyline was that this was the storyline that they had to do to appease Vince to keep the power turned on.
So we had Mi Ying.
Awful.
We had Mi Ying, who had her two disciples.
We had Boa.
Boa beat the heck out of Xia Li, broke her, and reshaped her, and
yes.
And now they just disappeared.
She is gone. The 5,000-year-old undead zombie dragon lady is gone, but she has passed her power into Boa, and Boa is unable to control the darkness that is raging within him. Meanwhile, Xia Li, who had comic book style strips hyping up her debut and vignettes, who has decided that she is the she's the justice of the people.
She's an anime
superhero. I had a friend of mine, Asian guy, a couple years ago.
She's an anime superhero.
And I was talking to him, and I like to get people's feedbacks on things, because I don't know if you can tell from this amazing camera I've got in front of me, but I'm pretty white, okay? But you talk about like, how does racism affect you, and how does things like that bother you, and like what's going on, right? Wow. And I remember I was talking to a friend of mine, like I said, he's Asian, he's from Japan, and he goes, I really just hate that all white people think we're just fucking magical ninjas. And I was like, well, yeah, but he's like, it's a lot of our mythology, the same way like knights and dragons is part of like Eastern mythology and stuff. It's like
they all think we're farmers and rednecks,
but we are. But most of us are at this point. But he's like, I really just hate the fact that everybody thinks that because I'm Asian that I'm like I know karate and I have magical powers. And that's what they gave them. They know karate and they have magical powers. She came out with lightning shooting out of her tits. There was bad.
So much CGI lightning around her.
It was so bad. And poor Pat McAfee, who's like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. And I was like, oh God, Pat. Oh God. I was like,
are you seeing this?
Like,
and meanwhile, everybody in the stadium's like, no, we're not.
No, we're not. Like, you've seen Tom Brady's junk, man. You have seen more magical things than fake lightning shooting out of Xia Li's hoo-ha.
So she came out to rescue
the other stupid ass storyline that's taking place on SmackDown,
which we'll get to. Too. Yes. Meanwhile, Mia Ying, rumored to be coming back as her actual... Mia Ying, by the way, was the first Chinese wrestler ever signed to WWE. She's Chinese.
Nice.
Not...
Well, isn't... Chyna has dragons, right?
Right.
I watched Raya.
They don't have ninjas.
Well... Ninja, yeah. I mean, technically, I think, didn't they say that Japan never actually had ninjas?
Well,
aren't ninjas technically like myths?
Ninjas don't exist. You're right.
Yeah.
But anyway, so she's apparently going to be coming back as her actual Chinese.
I love the fact too that one, they've decided to rebrand her into her actual character. But I love the fact that whoever wrote this trash at NXT has decided, I will not let this die, and I will somehow merge that character into the one guy that we still have of Boa, who gets a bigger crowd reaction than some of the people on the roster.
And he blows smoke.
Boa gets cheered more than like Von Wagner. He gets cheered more than Duke Hudson. Why do that to this man? Why do this to Xia Li? Why did she bow? No, the best part was is she goes, okay, I believe it. But then Naomi goes and bows to her.
Oh, I already hit the fast forward button by then.
Oh, we're going to talk about that segment when we get to SmackDown. But we wanted to try and go a long form detail of explaining how we got to this trash, and we can't figure it out.
But you know,
but the best part about this is that somehow the 5,000-year-old Dragon Lady did accomplish something. Her protege got elevated to the main roster. Mercedes Martinez got kicked out of the company. And Boa has now had the essence of evil passed on to him, so her legacy will live on.
Mia Ying has passed her strength and spirit onto me, and I can't control it.
Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord.
All right. Here's our big, deep target. By the way, so the picture in the middle is her in Japan. Yes. And I honestly think that is probably the best picture I've ever seen of her. This was the last picture, I truly believe, when she was content with life.
I would imagine
when she was finally content with life. Did you watch? Yeah. Did you watch?
So that's what I wanted to have the discussion about. So we were going to talk about Chyna a few months ago when the Not Vice TV special aired with her,
which was amazingly.
But we kept having to kick it. So because Joni was born this month, I want to say a week or so ago, I think it was December 8th or 18th or something was her birthday. We decided to move it into this month to have the discussion about Chyna.
And there was really nothing else going on in wrestling this week.
Yeah, the thing about this is that should we start with the documentary a little bit?
I think so.
All right. So for those of you who have not watched it, I recommend going out of your way and watching the not Dark Side of the Ring Vice TV special about Joni Lauer, Chyna.
They take all of the footage. Man. They take all of the footage that was supposed to be a documentary of her recovery. So the reintroducing Chyna back into the world after.
Well, stop. Let's pause there for a second. Let's also talk about the fact that the documentary originally.
Okay, that's what I was getting. You didn't let me finish.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Can I finish? I'm gonna
let you finish, Kanye. I'm gonna let you finish.
So all of this footage was taken from a documentary that was supposed to be her coming back to the States and reintroducing her to the wrestling world. That documentary got scrapped when the guy who was making the documentary pretty much murdered her. And then they reused the footage to make this now Vice documentary that actually explains all of the story.
So we're going to expand a little bit on that. So you did get there. But essentially, there was a team of people around Joni at this time who had convinced her to make this Resurrection of Chyna documentary. And that all massively falls apart. And Vice was actually able to get a hold of that documentary because of the legal surroundings with it that we're going to talk about in a second. And they were able to reuse that footage and cut their own narrative in. So it's almost a documentary about Chyna versus a documentary about the documentary and a documentary about the documentary being made into a documentary. Like, there's a really crazy narrative with this. Even if you're not a fan of wrestling, I recommend watching this documentary. It's one of the most heartbreaking things that I think I've ever seen, truthfully. I love documentaries. I really do. I think it comes from when, the Hitler Channel was big, on television, where you just watch documentaries about World War II nonstop.
Right.
But I love to watch them. And I love to watch multiple documentaries about the same thing.
To get the
difference. I literally watched all 3 documentaries about the Fire Festival, last year, when even with all the exploitation of it, I like Tiger King as a documentary because it was just so weird, and I needed to know more about what was going on. So I like to see different points of view.
But you couldn't be bothered to watch both versions of the Ultimate Warrior.
No, I did.
Oh, did you?
I own both of them. I own Self-Destruction, and I own.
I'm talking about the Dark Side of the Ring, and I'm talking about the A&W.
Oh no, I watched those.
Okay.
We had a discussion about those. But I loved this as a filmmaking. But it is absolutely heartbreaking because even with all of those documentaries, outside of maybe something about, Darby and the Germs, or Joy Division's lead singer or something like that. I don't know if I've ever seen something presented in a way that shows the mass amount of psychological pressure put on an individual surrounding stardom and the toxicity of the people around them. This is, I mean, the furthest I could equate this to would almost be like Marilyn Monroe in a way. And I love Marilyn Monroe, for some of you at home who may or may not know this, but I don't know if I'd ever seen someone who was so... The thing about Joni is, and this is in the documentary, this is even said, she didn't want to be a wrestler. She wanted to be famous. Mm-hmm. That's the big thing. Her father wanted her to be an FBI agent, and she wanted to be a cop. And because she had all the physical attributes to do that, that was her thing, and she was found in a gym. And they made her into a wrestler, and she saw this as a path to stardom. She just wanted to be famous. She didn't want to be a professional wrestler. But the attributes she had put her into that business, which quickly skyrocketed her from virtually trainee to television in a very short time. What was it, like a year?
Yeah.
She was basically she went from nothing to on TV in a semi-main segment in a year. So that's insane to have to somebody, especially at a young age at that point, you know? And when you look at this documentary and the people involved, it's such a crazy thing to see how everyone is clawing for stardom. Joni wants to have her star back, and she fought to get it, and she did all these mistakes and had all these problems, but she's thinking, and the people around her are telling her, this is how you get your star back. This is how you get back out there. This is the resurrection of Chyna. You're going to get it back. But all of those people are simply just latching onto her to hope that that rocket takes off again and they can go along with the ride.
What was so...
It's honestly, it's disgusting to watch how these people interact with it.
One of the things that made it so raw is it was a lot of what you could consider hidden footage, just held camera, there's a scene in there where he's like, it's going to make great TV if we can, reunite you with your mom. And she's like, I don't want to be near my mom.
Yes.
I cannot stand by...
You have to do it for the documentary.
We have to do it for the documentary. And they're like, okay, well, we'll try. And then there was a no show, and then there was another no.
Yeah.
And then you basically gave this... And she was like, you would never think this, because we think that these people, the ninth wonder of the world. We call her the ninth wonder of the world. You think that these people are infallible. And she was so broken. She's like, I can't be in front of people. And it was only because she ran into Mick Foley at that Comic-Con that she even felt like she could be... She's like, oh, here's somebody that loves me, and I can actually... He can give me the strength to do this.
Yeah.
Mick, should I be doing this? No, they're going to love you. Yeah, get back on there. Which, unfortunately, was like Mick's last time ever talking to her.
Yeah, which is... I mean, it's very unfortunate. Like I said, guys, go watch this. It's in segments. You can watch it from Vice. It's absolutely heartbreaking and to see it, and it goes very deep into her addictions. And yeah, I agree with you. This photo of her in Japan. So we'll do a quick little recap.
Yeah. We've got time. We gave a lot of time for this.
So Joni as Chyna becomes very famous as a professional wrestler. She's on the covers of Playboy. She's in television. She did spots on Third Rock from the Sun. She's making all kinds of promises from Vince. I think they were even, whether or not anybody confirms it, but they had talked about putting a world title on her. There has been a lot of talks that had been thought, or at least put in Joni's head that she was going to get the world title.
Right.
And they had told her that. I don't think it was going to happen because I don't think Vince would do it. But I definitely think in order to try and get her on board with things, they said, well, we're going to put the world title on you at some point.
Had Triple H and her not broken up without her knowledge, I think that could have happened.
Yeah, and Joni runs into a problem where her boyfriend is no longer her boyfriend, and the boyfriend is now dating the boss's daughter, and... on top of that, Joni's contract's up. And Joni wants a bunch of money. She wants a ton of money. And other people have confirmed this. This is not her narrative. But Pritchard on his show, when they talked about it, Cornette, other people who were actually there at that time said she wanted $1 million a year. She wanted to make the same amount of money that Rock and Stone Cold was making. And Vince did not want to give it to her, so they separated. And when that happened... she's left adrift because she doesn't have her name. She doesn't have the machine behind her that's pumping her.
She doesn't have an AEW to go to.
She doesn't have an AEW to go to. There's a lot of
TNA wasn't going to take her.
There's a lot of programs in their infancy that don't have her. I mean, I don't think TNA did a couple shots with her, but nothing worked out. She was an absolute mess from this point. We have to talk about it. She has a adult film leaked on the internet that she capitalizes off of with X-Pac. That adult film leads into an actual 3 produced adult films, I believe, from her that she worked with Vivid.
She then went on reality shows.
She went on a ton of reality shows, and all of that is framed very well in this documentary of someone latching onto stardom. And when you have a certain point, you just kind of fall down the rungs of stardom, where you have major national television or movies, and then you drop to the next thing of sitcoms, and then you drop to the next thing. And I know there's the narrative in Hollywood of those things of, like, once you become a major Hollywood star, you don't do TV anymore, But that's, you kind of look at it as she fell down those rungs, that star just got dimmer and dimmer and dimmer for her. She leaves the country. She moves to Japan.
Because because she knows that if she just stays in America, she'll be dead of an overdose. Because all of these other reality shows were feeding her drugs.
Yes.
They weren't giving the shows weren't giving her the drugs, but
she was around people who were toxic for her, and she was extremely unhappy, and she was gonna die. So
when you're on a show like Celebrity Rehab,
she goes to Japan, and I have mentioned this before, and I've talked with Joey about it, but I think if she'd have stayed in Japan and just been a nobody, that she'd probably still be alive today. I really do think that the interview that she did with Vince Russo, where she proclaimed that's the interview where she said that her and Triple H had an abusive part of their relationship. That's part of the interview where she talked about a bunch of stuff. And I really blame Vince Russo even a lot for this, because if you watch that interview, he talks a lot about he will do everything in his power to get her. If she comes back to America, he'll do everything in his power to make her popular and a star again. Vince Russo doesn't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of, honestly. So those promises once again being made to her, and I know that video was like a year before she came back, but still, someone else making promises to her to make her a star. The carrot is dangled in front of somebody. I watched her videos when she was she had a YouTube channel when she was in Japan where she was teaching English going around, and it took a little while. You watch those videos and you think, man, she's really messed up. And then as the videos went further and further into about a year or so, you realize that I think she was happy. And when she came back, she gets surrounded by a manager who wants to make this film, and they get a camera crew and they get a director ready, and the director just wants to be a star and do drugs with Chyna. So they start getting her drugs, and they start feeding her drugs, and then they start trying to basically run her back up the same ladder around the same people that got her sick to begin with. And the whole time, these people are videoing it, they're documenting it, and they're doing it intentionally to her, and no one is actually stepping in.
The director's like, dude, this isn't what we were supposed to be doing,
and he
quit.
But the director,
or he got fired.
Well, the director's also the same person that says that he wanted to do meth with her. Or
who was the person who left because he was afraid?
I think it was just one of the co-directors, or maybe even one of the the cameramen or something.
The producer, because there was like 2 different directors. It got confusing there in a little while.
There was a little bit for it, but there was a director who said he just wanted to do drugs with her.
So in Japan, she did a little bit of New Japan stuff, and she was big over there, and everybody loved her.
She did the TNA shot with Kurt Angle, where she came in and she teamed up with Kurt against Karen and Jeff.
She's over, and right here she's wrestling Jushin Liger.
Yeah.
It was, but
she was wrestling the men,
and she got to teach. She said that she was teaching English, and in this shot, which was from the documentary, she's like, "I'm teaching English. I'm not known as this other person. I'm just known as."
They don't know who I am over there.
I'm Joni, and I love it, and I'm content in life, and it's the most heartbreaking thing because you realize that was the last time she was happy.
Yes, and one of the things that's interesting with this, and I'm sure we've jumped back and forth a lot of this, because we've had a very poignant talk about this over time, but we're trying to get all of our thoughts in like our window, essentially, But And I don't always agree with Dr. Drew, who is featured in the documentary at several points in it, but he says something that has always kind of been my viewpoint of dealing with someone who's dealing with trauma. Trauma of addiction, trauma of abuse, whatever you have it. Basically, you have to look at... You have a 3-step process to healing, in my opinion. The first thing is you have to want to get better yourself, obviously, for yourself. But you have to look at the people around you. You have to look at the situation and circumstances around you and where you're at that point. You have to say, are these people here to help me or hurt me? And if they're here to hurt me, I have to get rid of them. Yes. And that's very, very difficult for people who have a support structure around addiction and even abuse victims, because they have it in their head that they need these people. The next step you work on is you. So you work on getting you better. You work on getting you readjusted back into normal life. Because now you don't have the negative influences, you have the positive, and now you are focusing on yourself. And he says this in the documentary, and I really agree with it, is the last thing you work on is what led me to my trauma. Why did I get here? And that can take years of people to get through to get to that point. They have her go to her dead father's grave. Yeah. And they have her go and try and reconnect with her mother because it'll make great television for her. And they're pumping drugs at her. They call Dr. Drew to try and get him to prescribe her medication, which he says is a lethal combination that she could take. And he
goes, "Oh, we didn't know that."
And the director is essentially trying to figure out how to get a hold of these drugs and what the combination of drugs in that they can get her that she can still drink on or not drink with if she can get the same effects of being messed up with them, by trying to get Dr. Drew to explain the method of how to take these drugs. And Drew kind of is not really buying it and is telling her, you need to go check yourself into rehab now. You need to get in a program. You need to go to counseling. You need to go into a hospital. You're going to die. And then the fact that was happening is just insane. And many people have talked about this, but there's a part in the documentary where she fires her manager. Yeah. And her manager tells her, you can't fire me, I'm your soulmate. And comes back the next day. That man is insane and should be in jail the same way that, in my opinion, the doctor who prescribed Michael Jackson the drug should be in jail.
The end of the documentary is the most heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Because they show her final interview. And they show the final interview that anything she ever... And she's begging for help.
Begging for help.
She's begging for help.
And the help that she's getting...
is high.
Is the same people who got her back into this to begin with.
And he says, when I rewatched this, had I not gone out and gotten high before I filmed it, I probably would have... Because you can easily say that now. He goes, I didn't see it then. Because he's just giggling. She's begging for help, and he's just giggling like an idiot.
Yeah. And then...
he watches it back and goes, oh my gosh, she was asking for help. And I... doesn't say it. I killed her instead.
Yeah. Yeah. And
he should be a... He should... It was... No, not homicide. Homicide where you... No, manslaughter. It was 100% manslaughter.
Absolutely. And then on top of that, it even goes a little bit further with the same management team that we just talked about, who I feel that they went into that apartment when she was there to find her dead. I think they 100% wanted to try and film her dead body and find her dead, and they wanted to get it on film. Like, it is absolutely heartbreaking. Like I said, I don't know if I've ever seen a documentary that is so in-depth of the fractured psyche of someone trying to be famous and being misled down every road you could possibly be taken down.
The closest one I think I saw was the one they did on Anna Nicole Smith, because there was a lot of raw footage from that one too. From it's a famous name, but not the famous guy, the boyfriend or whatever.
Yeah. But I mean, it's sad, and like I said, we're on a birthday anniversary here for Joni this month, I believe, and she got inducted into the Hall of Fame as a group for DX, even after they said that they probably wouldn't do it because of the pornography career. Does she have a place in the Hall of Fame? I know that the WWE Hall of Fame, we bash it a lot, but it is what it is.
Right.
So I guess the question is does Joni deserve a single induction as her?
Her birthday would have been December 27th.
December 27th. There you go. So I 100% believe that Joni does deserve a single induction into the Hall of Fame for herself.
Oh, absolutely.
Because her contributions to the business, whether or not she was a good performer or not, and that's something that a lot of people like Cornette and others who I like get hung up on, is that, Joni wasn't a great wrestler. Okay. But
they called her the ninth wonder of
a
the world for a
lot
reason.
There's a lot of people who have been very successful in this business who aren't good wrestlers.
John Cena,
She was
Hulk
an
Hogan.
attraction. She was a icon. She broke a lot of the mold in the business from the point of view.
Without her, there's no Beth Phoenix. There's no Nicole Bass. Not Nicole Bass was all that great. There's no
without her,
Pipper Niven. There's no.
And the thing about it is that
Jordan Grace. Oh my God.
Beauty. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder at that point. But what I mean by that is that physically, there was no thing like her on television at that time. And I don't mean that insulting by saying thing. I'm saying her presentation, her performance, her body, how she presented the character that she was given. There was nothing on television that rivaled what she could do. And for that reason alone, her mark on the business absolutely should count towards a single induction into the Hall of Fame. Her work with Eddie, absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, Eddie.
Yeah, it was so fun.
I love you, Papi. There's so
like
much. So much ground that we're not going to get to talk about, but it's just, yeah. I love Joni. I really did. I was amazed by her as a youth. I'm still amazed when I go back and see her today, and to see that how far down she had fallen and was being drugged more and more into her death by the people that surrounded her. It just is heartbreaking to really sit down and watch it.
Yeah, it's definitely man, you gotta watch it at least once just to see it, and you may never want to watch it again. But it was a great documentary. We both got a chance to see, and we wanted to talk about. Yeah, I agree. She should be in the thing. So I would like to say, well, now that we've done this depressing topic, let's move to something more fun. But we're going to talk about storylines, so it's not going to be any less depressing.
Oh, wow!
And look how much time I gave you to talk about storylines.
I want to go through honestly kind of quick, because if I branch off into the things I don't like, we'll be here all night.
Right. Well, we're going to talk about some storylines. So first we're going to start like we always do with AEW.
Okay.
So,
do you have 27 minutes of MJF to show this?
I have no videos.
Okay. Wow. All right.
I have no more videos.
Okay.
So, CM Punk gets booed in New York. He
gets booed in New York all the time.
And did you watch the whole 30-minute? It was the worst promo MJF / CM Punk have ever given, because CM Punk had nowhere to go with this, so he insulted the hockey team 4 times in the promo.
Was this the after the match promo?
No, this is when MJF came out. Probably,
because this is after he had the match with what's his name?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And then MJF came out afterwards, and it was not great.
The problem with it is this. I can't say it wasn't great, because I did get to see a good portion of it.
There were parts that were good.
But hold on.
Done.
The problem, I think, is that we just got it. And then they tried to... They
2 weeks in a row was
lightning in a bottle.
2 weeks in a row was great.
They tried to capture lightning in a bottle twice, back to back, and that should not have happened. CM Punk should have had his match, and realistically, all they should have done is MJF should have just kind of...
Yeah.
And maybe gotten on the mic and just been like, hey, man, you said you were disappointed in me, but I'm proud of you because you just had a barn burner with nobody.
Right. Well,
that would have been great, and him would have gotten out. But I think they wanted to give the fans the CM Punk promo and it watered down. So I don't think the promo was that bad. I just think it was very diluted because we just had an amazing promo.
I also think that when you have to start repeating the same line 3 times, that maybe we should just cut it short. The promo should have got cut short. When everyone's
maybe Phil's notes on his wrist strap had kind of bled through with the sweat.
because it turned the match.
Yeah.
But we're still moving forward with that whole thing. Apparently, Cody is bugging Mike. So let's talk about why Cody is bugging Mike.
Cody, listen to me, bro. Listen to me.
So before you say anything,
Okay.
all the reviews online say that his flaming table match was amazing.
It was not.
It was like
So
glorious.
Are we breaking down the show, or are we just talking about this?
We're talking about these are the beats
No,
we're going to talk about.
I'm saying, are we doing AEW in full, or are we just hitting?
We're talking about AEW as a company,
Okay.
what they're providing for us
All
this
right.
week, last week.
That was one of the worst matches I've seen this year. It was slow. It was not good. Arn Anderson fell off of the ramp and had to be picked up
Again.
and then be punched in the head because Jose had to pull him back up. I don't know if there's 2 people right now in AEW that rival the uninterestingness of most of the roster of the WWE having feuds right now. Cody and Andrade ex Mrs. Flair.
No, they're still together.
I thought they broke up on Twitter.
No, that was all, and then they posted a picture of them together going, this is what happens when you listen to the internet.
Oh, whatever. Piss up a rope. That's lame. The Smarks made fun of you, so you had to be like, ha 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 ha, we broke up, but no, we really didn't, ha ha ha, whatever. So, they are uninteresting as, you know... You know that joke you could sell ice to an Eskimo?
Right.
It's about as lame as that. This is them selling ice to Eskimos. It's just pointless. Like, neither one of them are really interesting or over.
Nope.
Cody has a TV show, as we talked about earlier, coming out, so naturally his wife has to get involved. Nobody gave a damn that Brandy did that. No, and I mean, the announce team was selling, oh my God, Brandy's back, oh my God. And everybody in the crowd was just kind of like, Who? Who is this? Oh, it's Brandy. Oh, yeah. They had a bunch of missed spots. It was super slow. And then they do a table spot.
On fire.
And the table gets set on fire with lighter fluid. And Andrade...
Cody has so many burn marks on his back.
Andrade is up on the top turnbuckle, facing out. And Cody gets up behind him. And he's waiting on Brandy to get the table set on fire, and Andrade's sitting there on the ring post. And Andrade fixes the hair in his face, and he's sitting there on the ring post. And Cody's waiting to step up on and grab him. And he's waiting. And then they get the table lit on fire. And as soon as the table gets lit on fire, that's when Cody and Andrade start to fight each other again. And Andrade's trying to beat him off. And then Cody, for some stupid reason...
Andrade's trying to what?
Fight him off.
That's not what you said.
What'd I say?
He's trying to beat him off.
Well, maybe he's trying to beat him off, yes, with whatever motion's going on here. So Andrade, then they start working again and decide, oh, that's right, we have to pretend like I don't want to be put through a flaming table, right? And then, obviously, because it's lighter fluid, too, and lighter fluid burns very quickly, that they want to get through the table spot fast, right? She also soaked that freaking table in 2 things of lighter fluid. And then...
Cody's back looks like it.
Oh, we're getting there. We're getting there. So for some stupid reason, instead of doing a back body drop through the table, Cody decides to do an inverted suplex on Andrade through the table. And guess what happens? Cody goes through the table that's on fire. Andrade does not. Andrade goes past the table. And Cody lands...
In the fire.
In the fire. And he catches on fire because he's got lighter fluid in his back now. Cody was also very shiny because they had put the jelly, the fire retardant jelly, on his body because they were going to do it. The problem, though, is that they put the stuff on his body, and then they went and had 15 minutes of a match before they did the table spot. So all of the safety fire jelly
is on the mat.
Is off of him. So naturally, he catches on fire. Props to Cody for still getting the pin in while he's on fire and selling. I guarantee you his first thought was, get this shit off of me, I am on fire.
I'm on fire!
The referee did not know what to do. Let's talk about safety concerning the AEW people. Why do they have to have a glass match with no retaining wall of plexiglass put up to protect the people in the front row from getting glass thrown at them? Why do they have to put people through real barbed wire? Why do you have to set someone on fire and not have fire extinguishers nearby at the ringside? Learn something from when Kane got set on fire 30 years ago. This match sucked. People who said this was a great match are stupid. And the whole point, and the thing about it is again, nobody's over. This didn't get anybody over. Somebody got burned for real. Nobody cared. Nobody cared that Cody's wife's back, and the whole reason this happened was so that way they could shoot footage of it for their freaking reality show that's coming up that's going to talk about. They're going to show the shots, probably in like black and white, of Cody with the blood and all the burn marks on his back, and Brandy's going to be in the back being like, oh my God, oh my God, and then they're going to have interviews about Cody talking about the love of his craft and the honors and legacy of Georgia and Dusty and things like that, and this was all just a big waste of time, and somebody could have actually gotten hurt.
It was supposed...
I don't care what it was supposed to be.
To show Cody possibly turning heel.
How?
I don't know. Because he was doing bad things.
You did a flaming table. You did a bad thing to a heel. And if it wasn't for Cornette's podcast about some of this, where his co-host goes back and retreads how we got here, I also had no clue how we got here.
No, it was very quick and very dumb.
I had to go back and actually look at the fact that Malachi Black and Cody Rhodes got in a feud, and then somehow Malachi Black got MJF to get FTR to go beat up somebody. Well, Malachi Black got, who was it? Andrade to go talk to MJF to get FTR, so that's why we had the big 6-on-6 match at the pay-per-view at Full Gear, where Cody was the only babyface in a gigantic heel match.
So what we're basically saying is this match should have been Andrade and Pac, because it would have been a way better match. Not necessarily with Flaming Table. I'm just saying them two wrestling.
For a story, I guess. But again, see my earlier statement. I get that apparently Andrade's a great wrestler. But he's like Drew Gulak to me. I don't care. And no one else does. And everybody went crazy when he signed in AEW because they knew that he would. But since then, the bloom is very much off the road because he is so uninteresting. And they've given him everybody. They gave him everybody to help him, and he can't do shit.
I'm going to be very careful how I say this. This has nothing to do with their ethnicity. But can you honestly tell me the difference between Andrade and the leader of the drug cartel? Because they are so interchangeable. They are 100% interchangeable.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They look the same. They wrestle the same. They could be brothers.
They should have been paired together. They probably were at some point, and we never noticed it. The funny thing about that is anytime, when somebody goes that way, I immediately think of the brilliance. And I don't like the show Seinfeld really at all. But I love that brilliant episode where that's, they're talking about the gay friend. And they're like, not that there's anything wrong with that, because the whole joke is, there is, if you have to say not that there's anything wrong with that, it means there's something wrong with that.
If you have to say no offense, but
you're going to offend somebody. So when you're like, not that this has anything to do with them being Latino, but...
So I know this is always a button for you.
Okay.
Danielson and Paige are going to be free next week.
Don't know why.
For their winter... For their winter is coming show. I believe it's the last show on TNT before they switch over to TBS.
I imagine that's probably why. It's for... I don't know why you would give it away for free on the last episode of the broadcast. They also only do it on the first episode on the new channel. That's one. Two, yes, I am still of the old school of why are we giving away a pay-per-view main event for free when we're going to have commercials? 2, 3, if you have commercials in this, you have done a disservice to both of those men, and you had better talk to the network and say, hey, look, these guys are going to go 35 minutes. We cannot have a commercial for 35 minutes. And I would book this show where we have 2-minute nothing match promo stuff, and everybody in that building talks about Danielson and Page the first hour of that show, and I would put every single one of our commercials in the first hour of that show so you don't have to show one during this match.
So the match is also going to have MJF's versus who's it going to be? MJF versus Dante Martin.
So that'll be 2 minutes because, as we have discovered, MJF only works long form on pay-per-view. He does not do long matches on television.
I'm sure there'll be a Jackson fight, best friends fight. So
Because the Bucks got a buck.
Because the Bucks got a buck. I think we might get the Thunder Rosa Jade Cartel match. I hope finally.
Yeah. By the way, I won that, didn't I?
Yeah, Ruby Rose Soho did in fact win that match, but that doesn't matter because we still need to see who Thunder and Jade. Well, yeah, no, actually, you made it all the way to the finals. So.
Yeah, I made it all the way to the finals. Yes, because I said Thunder Rosa wins it all.
Anyway,
all right, moving on.
So yeah, winter's coming. There's supposed to be a lot of really good matches. It's all for free. Yeah, it should be limited.
I assume, like I said, I don't like it, but I assume this is to make the network happy because it's also part of their cross-promotion winter is coming thing.
Because Bryan Danielson did have a 11-minute match with John Silver, which was a great match.
Oh, it was fine.
I love John Silver.
I am absolutely amazed that every time I see Daniel Bryan, he looks better and better every time. And somehow, at his age, for whatever he is doing, he looks more physically fit now than he did a decade ago.
And I love that at the end of it, he's like, I said I was going to kick his head off. I said I said, oh, wait, I haven't kicked your head yet.
Boom.
All right. So this week on it was on Rampage. 14-minute match. FTR versus the Lucha Brothers.
I didn't see all of it. I didn't see all of this.
Oh my god. I could watch these two teams wrestle for the rest of my life, it feels like.
Yeah.
It just, FTR they're not about the flippies, but they know how to take the flippies.
Yes. This is a great contrast of styles of two people who shouldn't be able to work together, and they put on one of the best shows.
You're right.
That you'll see on television.
And it makes me go, I can't wait, because I've seen the Lucha Brothers wrestle the Briscoes, because Ring of Honor.
Yes.
And New Japan. So I cannot wait for that to happen. So AEW really, there's not a whole lot else going on other than the fact, there's really no other big storylines. Riho got to wrestle, not that anybody cares. She did a 13-minute match where she pinned Jimmy Hayter because Riho's got a Riho. I told Dad what you said, and he laughed. He's like, yeah. Maybe you need to get out of the house and go wrestle while I rehab.
Yep.
And then for Rampage, the main event was Hook.
Hook has debuted. Whatever.
Did you see him wrestle?
I think I saw a little bit.
It was only 3 minutes.
Because he wrestled Fuego del Sol. So
he comes out.
Why did they hire this goof?
Who?
Fuego.
So that he can lose.
Why? I mean, did they just need it? They have 80,000 people on their roster.
Remember, he lost his match to get a contract and got a contract.
A contract anyway. Yes. Is it because do you see that much value in Sammy Guevara that you had to give his buddy a job?
Well, everybody else gets their buddy a job.
I assume that's the deal. Do I have a buddy in AEW? I might be able to make some calls and be on TV here in a couple weeks.
But. So the biggest thing about Hook, Hook, he had some really collegiate style level wrestling down pat. They were crisp, it was clean. The thing that just bothered me is he was just chawing on gum like he was.
Isn't he signed to Team Taz?
He's Taz's son.
Oh, that's right. He's Taz's son. That's right. Because he's finally... That's right.
Taz's
I forgot. Well, they did that stupid contract signing thing where they made it, official.
Yeah, and then he turned on... And that guy already turned on Team Taz.
Oh, okay.
That was Dante Martin.
Oh, that was Dante Martin. Okay, I couldn't remember who was at the contract signing. I don't give a shit about Hook. It was an okay movie in the 90s with Robin Williams. That's what I equate the word hook
all right,
to.
so in Impact, the big news is that Jonah, a.k.a. Bronson Reed, has arrived.
Tsunami!
And he's wrecking house.
As he should have been.
As he should.
I'm guessing you were just from the wrong island of Samoa for you to stay employed with the WWE because they can only hire Dwayne's cousins.
So on Dynamite, you had 57 minutes in your 2-hour show, and you had 27 minutes of wrestling in your 1-hour show. About 50-50, which is about
where you want to be at.
About normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rampage was okay. Dynamite was okay. Again, the storylines moving forward really is what we have here. Impact, I didn't get a chance to watch, but I do know that I saw the Bronson Reed showing up, and I think that him and the Weapon will have some good matches. So let's move back on to.
Can't wait to see him and Moose.
All right, so first thing I want to talk about in Raw. What is going on with Austin Theory being emasculated by Vince McMahon? What is the point of any of this?
I have no clue.
He gets smacked across the face last week. He gets screamed at for 2 weeks in a row. And then he's like, just prove it to me. Do you like that? Do you like it? Well, I don't care what you like. I mean, it's like watching Vince McMahon have a mental breakdown.
You're literally watching your senile grandfather remember World War II. That's what's happening in this right now. And I don't know if that's intentional or not. This is awful. I will say this week for TV, Vince looked way better than he has in the past physically. But here's the thing.
Is this good for Austin or bad?
No. It's not good to be slapped by an 80-year-old man and not whip his ass.
But is this because he believes in Austin or he's just making fun of him?
I think they think this is getting him over. So I wanted to talk about this for a second. Did you understand a damn thing that Vince was saying on Monday? Like, actually understand him. I could not understand him, and I was watching the subtitles that did not come through accurately.
Because they're trying to type it as he says it?
He's like, I don't care what the people say. Like, there's a guy, and it's like, got the jock itch. And I'm like, what the fuck is Vince talking? Who has jock itch?
You got to prove it to me. You got to surprise me.
Prove that he has jock itch and surprise Vince by shoving it in his face?
The only thing that I heard that really was like, you got to surprise me. You got to keep him interested.
This was terrible. This was awful, and it does nothing for him. And then also, on top of that...
we went from this to selfie, which was getting him over.
Yeah.
To...
And then also, to coincide with that, the WWE continues to bury Finn Balor. Finn Balor, I hope to see you in AEW shortly, where we will get a reunite of the... Because what happened? How did he surprise Vince? He beat up Finn Balor. Finn Balor, I don't think has won a match. Has Finn won a match
since the gods shat upon him and cut his rope?
Sorry, Finn. It's making my wife sad because she loves Finn Balor.
Speaking of people being buried, Nikki's on her way out.
Don't care.
Because
see ya. Thanks, but no thanks.
When you lose to Queen Vega in 30 seconds.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't care. Don't care.
All right. Well, then we have the storyline where Bobby remembers he's a beast finally.
I guess he watched the promo that they did for him at Survivor Series.
Oh, wait. I can do things.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Why am I not in the main event? Wait a minute.
He has a legitimate gripe of... Everything got jumbled up because Survivor Series pay-per-view teams, blah, 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 and all this stuff. But let's not forget, I mean, do you remember when they used to do simple things and say, I had a rematch clause in my contract?
We got rid of those until it's convenient.
But why do we have contract signings every time we need a main event or a segment to fill the spots for the main event? Just have him make simple things. I have a rematch clause in the contract that states that I get Big E at the next pay-per-view. We got jammed up because of Survivor Series and stuff, and that overtakes my contract clause. I want to use my rematch clause at day 1 and be entered into the 4-way and make it a fatal 4-way.
Which, by the way,
simple stuff.
But by the way,
kiss it, Vince.
Raw,
kiss my ass, Vince.
But by the way, WWE, when you only have 3 or 4 main eventers, don't all put them all in the match. You have to build to the next contender, which is what SmackDown is. A whole problem SmackDown's got. Apparently you sent me a message saying you wanted to talk about Seth Rollins. I'm not sure what it is you want to talk about.
So I just want to get, I said on the last show that we did that I didn't want to talk about the attack anymore, but I just want to say something that came out after the fact because Seth did an interview with TMZ where he said that it was scary. And everybody went on him, okay? The thing with that is as we talked about, this was not a fan who ran up on Seth and challenged him. This is not a fan who got a camera on the street and Seth Rollins was like, "Oh no, please, Mr. Fan, don't beat me up. I'm so afraid of you." Seth got blindsided by a person who he didn't know was happening on a show that's scripted that he doesn't know if the crazy old bastard in the back decided to rewrite and had somebody run out and rush him.
Speared him.
And took him and hit him from behind. Also, the comment of, "It was scary," and everybody's like, "Well, he should have cut a heel promo and done this and this and this." What is wrong with him saying it was scary? On the previous show, again, I mentioned the Dimebag Darrell shooting. It's funny that we talked about it because, one, as I said, I was supposed to be at that show, and the other thing with it is they actually just tore down the Alarosa Villa Club where the shooting happened to make way for new apartments in this same time period that just happened. So him saying, "Yeah, bro, I was a little scared," is a legitimate thing to say. Because I don't care if you're Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, or Mike Tyson. If somebody hits you from behind and takes you down to the ground and you don't know who's on top of you, why, or what's happening, you're probably going to be a little scared about what's going on. We live in a very dangerous age right now.
Now I understand the question mark. I was like...
But I'm going to play into that for a second. Seth kind of mentions it when he cuts his promo after this. But why is Seth, not being as evil as Seth was? And also, why is Seth Rollins throwing the weakest punches in professional wrestling history right now?
I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Seth Rollins at all because... Was he even on Raw last week?
Yeah, he was.
Did he do anything?
He cut a promo.
Okay, because I'm like, I can't really remember much of...
Yeah, cut a promo, that was about it.
Because there's so much that happened on Raw.
Raw had a bunch of matches that had not a lot of time in it.
Yeah, so a 3-hour show had an hour and 16 minutes worth of matches.
Yeah.
It started out... Well, it also started out with a 20-minute cage match.
Don't ever... I have lost my stuff about this in the past, so I'm just going to keep it simple. Why did we start with a cage match? Why did we start the show with a cage match? Why did we start 2 shows this week with cage matches? Also, we had a pay-per-view that had 2 cage matches on it. So in 1 week, we had 4 cage matches.
The cages were out.
I thought for certain. Well, they had to transport the cage to L.A. because NXT's in Florida.
I know.
I thought for certain that SmackDown was going to have a cage match.
Well, they probably wanted to.
I swore it was going to have a cage match.
Well, I read that they were originally going to do that as the main event and open with Becky Lynch and Liv Morgan, but when they went through the archives, they found out that last year, Becky Lynch closed the show with Sasha.
We're going to get to that in just a second.
All right,
Becky and Edge say stuff that they shouldn't. Why are they not allowed to talk about the people that they just fired?
2 weeks ago. Yep.
Why is everyone else allowed to talk about the WWE firings and say things about it, but the WWE is not allowed to use that?
So here I want to talk to you about this for a minute. So the comment was, with Becky, Liv Morgan, Becky said...
So hold on, let me feed it to you. Liv Morgan is cutting a promo with Becky in the ring, and Liv says, "Your fat contract and all of your demands are the reasons that my friends don't have jobs here anymore."
Okay, that's right. So
because referencing Ruby Soho.
So it was Liv that said it, not Becky. I apologize.
Yes.
And then with Edge said something about while you were dancing with the stars and getting your next TV,
friends were busy getting fired.
You're busy. You couldn't even be there for your friend who was getting fired and couldn't defend him.
Yeah.
So now here's my question.
Okay.
We know that Vince McMahon hires writers to write scripts, and not
Okay.
very many wrestlers are allowed to say things off script. There are there's this many.
So is the problem is because
So
they
did the
don't-
writers write that? And then
if they did, whoever wrote that's genius. I thought it was great that they referenced it.
do you think the two I think Edge could probably go in for himself.
Edge probably said it himself. I don't know if Liv said it herself for the promo, but either way, I thought it was great, and I do not understand why everybody's so upset and that they're not allowed.
By everybody, we mean Vince and company.
Well, no, the internet went absolutely crazy and said that it was horrible and disgusting that they would say something like that. But why is it that all of the other companies can make reference towards it,
I thought it was
but
genius.
they can't on there? I thought it was absolutely genius.
So I was like, wow, we're going to actually address the elephant in the room.
Yeah, they actually addressed it, and they're like, well, I thought it was more offensive as Scarlett Bordeaux came out and said how do you fire me and then release an action figure for me? I thought that was more messed up. Or who was the other guy that was like, why do I have a brand new t-shirt after you just fired me if for budgetary cuts you fired me because you didn't see a dollar value in me, but yet you produced merchandise for me that because you have it sitting in your warehouse, you're gonna still sell it. So clearly I made you money somehow. I thought that was more offensive than having people cut promos on their television about people getting fired in their company. I thought it was great. And the two people who said it were perfect. What I wanted to happen this week that did not was I would have doubled down with Miz.
Oh, yeah.
I would have 100% had Miz come out and cut I know these are things that make me angry, but a face heel promo where he would have said face stuff as a heel, but would have said something along the lines. The fact that they did the Miz TV thing pissed me off to begin with anyway, because I think it's horrible and dumb. But I would have had Miz come out and say, you accused me of a bunch of foul stuff last week, and you said that I was busy doing this. Well, you know what? I'm out there representing this company. I'm out there doing that. You were a guest spot on a failed TV show. My show's still on the air. I went and did Dancing with the Stars on a national television network. I wasn't here to defend my friend who doesn't work here anymore because I was busy promoting the company that you should be doing. But anytime somebody like you or Brock or whoever and a part-timer wants to come in because they needed this to define their legacy, somebody has to make room for one of you people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would have gone
that way.
It's not me being on TV that made my friend lose his job. It's your fat Legends contract that makes my friend have to go away.
I would have had him say something along the lines, too, of like, well, you know what? I don't see you jumping in front of the train that's leaving the building and say, no, not these guys. I'll just go home and you repurpose my contract into these guys' salary. Be like, I don't see a single one of these guys out there doing that for them, so don't sit there and come at me and say it's my fault that John doesn't have a job. I thought that would have been brilliant. But no, they bitched out and they decided to do a Miz TV segment.
So what'd you think of the arcade Bronament?
They finally figured out how to do Randy right in this.
All right,
Randy. What do you got? What do you need to say to the people? What do you think of that? Nope.
You want me to put on the jacket?
Away.
You want me to put on the jacket? You want me to put on the jacket? Ah, fine, I'll put on the jacket. And where is the jacket?
Yeah.
I'm taking the stupid jacket off.
Yeah, they finally figured it out of this, and they got rid of the Randy threatens to break up with Riddle every week because RK Bro is on the verge of imploding because Randy's fed up with this BS. They finally figured out that one guy in the comedy act is the straight man, and one guy is the goof.
And he's like, you know what?
And they picked the fact that Randy Orton is the straight guy and Riddle's the goof. They didn't try and flip-flop it and be like, Randy, do more stuff. No, be stoic, be a statue, and do one thing.
Roll your eyes.
That's the joke.
Roll your eyes at him.
Yes.
You know what?
Perfect.
This all sucks. We're a great team. It works in the ring. But yeah.
I like you, kid. You like me. Everything's good. We're never going to be on the same page, but you know what? It's working in the ring, and once that stops, then we'll readdress it, But for right now, I'm going to let you be a goof, and I'm just going to be like, nope.
And somehow I thought it was amazing that so somehow Dominic and Ray get to go
Well, hold
forward.
on. Can we back up also to the fact of
Oh,
Angelo Dawkins defeats Montez Ford and AJ Styles, who, much like Finn Balor, they continue to bury into a deepest, darkest, blackest hole of business that they possibly can.
Almost is getting his own run.
Why? He can't do anything.
Almost is getting his own. He's Zeus. I told you, he's Zeus.
Anything.
Hulk
And they
Hogan's-
have a miscommunication in the ring where AJ gets tagged when Omos is on the outside because Omos wants to get in and do stuff, and Omos is a freaking idiot and gets counted out. And then AJ has to give an explanation to Riddle in the ring about why this happened, and AJ looks like he's going to cry because Omos walked away. My God, could you devalue AJ Styles? The only thing they need to do now is literally shave his head and have him kiss Vince's ass.
So, the best thing that happened on Raw, in my opinion, the best thing was honestly the Doudrop Bianca Belair match, where Doudrop's like, I've proved everything I need to in the ring. I'm just going to walk away because it was the only way to protect her.
Yes. At least with this, they decided to actually kind of protect the fact that they wanted to come back to this. Because here's the thing, too. You know, and we've mentioned this in the past. Everything is hotshot now. But everything is hotshot because the television audience is not going to stick around for a long-form story without bitching that this has been going on every week in a row. The thing that the WWE has not figured out how to compensate is that we can have Doudrop and Bianca do things that intersect with each other, but they don't have to have a match every week because somebody has to win and somebody has to lose. So they're still trying to figure this out after 15 years, but at least they figured it out in a way that made Bianca look good and made Doudrop look heelish by saying, and saying, you know what?
Because
whatever.
When she rolled out of the ring, at that point, you're like, I don't know who's going to win this match.
Yeah.
It was a 50-50 match, and she rolled out and said, you know what? I'm over it. I've proved it.
Yeah.
So Raw was not a great show. Becky Lynch versus Liv Morgan was a horrible match because
no, it was not.
Because they kept waiting for the spots. They had not practiced enough.
This was not a terrible match. There were 2 or 3 bad spots in it. The reason this match was terrible is because for some reason they decided to make people believe that Liv Morgan would win. They had vignettes featuring Liv Morgan's mother leading into this match about it's Liv's dream to be a wrestler, a WWE superstar, be women's champion. And when you get behind someone for that purpose, and then you do the Lex Luger Yokozuna thing where you take it all away from them, and the fact that they did it in the way that they did was the way that they did it, I guess I'm saying is okay, but the fact that once again Becky Lynch just basically put her arm on the bottom rope and that caused her to have enough leverage to have Liv Morgan held down for 3 seconds when the ref was already bringing his arm down for the 3rd count before Becky grabbed the rope, that looked awful. But I thought the girls' match was fine. It was just not booked right. It wasn't handled right. And the finish was not good because they clearly they don't want to take the belt off of Becky. But they're running into the problem of they have nobody. They have nobody to take the belt off of Becky because they devalued the only other person on this roster, in my opinion, that should take the belt off of Becky, which is Rhea Ripley.
Mm-hmm.
But Rhea is busy in the back with almost a superhero and throwing chairs around trying to find Vince's egg.
Yes. And, so then we're going to go to NXT. So NXT sucked.
NXT sucked.
Continues to suck.
So much.
Continues to suck.
We talked about Von Wagner and Kyle O'Reilly. Apparently Von Wagner is completely evil now. Joseph, do you remember back in like 1986 or whatever when they did the first time that the guy, when Hennig smacked the guy in the head with the cage door?
Yeah.
And he was gone for 8 months. Because that evil, dastardly son of a gun grabbed a hold of the cage door and slammed it in his face and turned on his team and said, "Screw you guys, I'm out of this crap." And he was gone for a year before he came back. Nope, everybody just gets hit in the head with the cage now, and it's just part of the match.
So the whole point of this was to show the Kyle O'Reilly going out on his back and leaving.
I thought Kyle signed an extension.
No.
He's gone.
He's gone.
I don't know what Kyle O'Reilly's going to do. I honestly don't see him in AEW. I don't think he works in Impact. The only thing I can think of is maybe Kyle's going to go fight in UFC or Bellator.
So Dexter Lumis had a great match with Carmelo Hayes.
Well, you're missing the redneck.
No, I'm not.
Losing Diamond Mine.
No, I'm not.
No, defeating Diamond Mine.
No, I'm not.
That was terrible. Oh, well, in the middle of this, though, don't forget Braun Breaker had a promo.
I know. So, and then...
Dexter Lumis had a 12-minute and 43-second match with Carmelo Hayes, and I would not mind watching this again. It was great up until the stupid ending.
Yep. Again... You may notice that we keep saying that the black and gold guys are great.
I don't know if we're... I don't know. I mean, well, hold on. Hold on. Because I will say Odyssey Jones is really good. And we're going to talk about this guy here in a second that's really good.
Zion Quinn?
I like Zion Quinn. But he had a horrible match with Escobar.
Okay, I was going to say, that match was not good.
I like the other Uso cousin.
Right, he wasn't on this week.
And that's the problem is that they can't have both of them on the same week because they're both the same character.
Right.
And the only difference is that one has Mark Hunt platinum blonde hair and the other guy has the back of his head tattooed. So,
and the biggest part of this was Gargano's goodbye.
Yeah.
Gargano has basically, I'm done. I don't know he never said I'm done. He said, I don't know what the future's, I need to step away for a little bit.
Yeah.
And the best part of this show happened after the show. That you had to go on see, like, when O'Reilly came in the ring with him, when Ciampa came in the ring with him.
Yes.
It was almost heartbreaking to watch.
Well, because the thing with him is this, is that he's... Look,
there's nothing else he can do.
I take the piss out of Johnny Gargano a lot because the stupidness around his character. And I do think that there's 3 moves that he does in every match, and he misses them every single time, and I hate him. Okay? But, speaking of Johnny Gargano as a pure wrestler, anytime that guy is asked to show up, he shows up.
He's never disappointed at an NXT TakeOver.
He's never disappointed. He's Mr. Takeover, Johnny Wrestling, whatever, for a reason. You can go back and watch some of our shows from last year where I really just took the piss out of him a lot.
And then you watched the match.
Well, like I said, I don't like his character. I didn't like the storyline that he was involved in. I don't like his wife. And he does, like I said, he does 3 moves in every match, and he misses them every single time, and I hate him for it.
Right.
But he was a staple, a pillar, whatever you want to say, of what NXT Black and Gold brand was. And he meant a lot to those people, and he meant a lot to those fans. And it's sad to watch him go out in the manner he did, and it's not for the same reasons, but it's almost the equivalent of Daniel Bryan, where like the hometown hero's just leaving.
And we were there for that.
Yes.
But they also left it open for a return.
They did, and he left it open. Well, the other thing with that, too, that we have to remember is, 1, his wife is still employed there, and 2, they backdate contracts based off of leave injury. Yep. So Candice LeRae is going to have 8 more months tacked on to her
and his
NXT contract for her pregnancy.
He finally came out and said that he's not making any decisions till after he's been a father for a little while.
Yes. So Gargano's just going to take some time off. Who knows?
So how long before we lose Ciampa?
When does he fight Braun Breaker? Well, no. I posted this article up there. Apparently, Ciampa has actually signed a long-term contract extension for NXT, so we will probably have Ciampa for another 2-3 years.
Yeah, he'll be a trainer.
Yeah, but you know what? At least
he'll be a trainer.
I don't know. All
right, so
and by the way, Johnny Gargano got his ass whooped by Grayson Waller at the end of the episode because apparently L.A. Drake decided to bang Grayson Waller's crush in the back seat of a car or something. I don't remember what was happening with this.
All right, so SmackDown.
Also, can we jump back for a second with that? Just go with, why is LA Knight not on the main roster? Why is LA Knight not on? Why is LA Knight not fighting Roman Reigns? Because one, he had the best showing, I would say, in the takeover or in the War Games.
Yeah.
The stuff that he did
Yeah,
in the War Games match was
it did make me remember.
amazing.
It did make me remember what he did in TNA.
And on top of that, everything that comes out of that guy's mouth, I believe.
Right.
He's so good.
He has not had it. He has not hit his stride in NXT yet.
Why should he have to? And also, why was he? Why is it that they knew that the fans would recognize him as Eli Drake, and they booked him as a heel when he should have got a babyface push? But then he got so over that they switched him for absolutely no reason into a babyface because the 2.0 kids insulted the Black and Gold brand, but he's not part of the Black and Gold brand. He should be part of the 2.0 kids.
Yeah,
Is it because he's over 35?
Maybe.
Is this literally? We are literally having a age discrimination war in NXT right now because the young guys are angry at the old guys. And if nothing else proves that you have a bunch of old freaking broke down fucks writing this show, is that right there. We have a bunch of old people angry at the young people, and the young people want to beat up the old people.
So over on SmackDown, we have
Caden goes. But he's not even on the show. We're watching something else, and Caden goes, Rick Boogs is dead. And I was like, no, he's not, buddy. I was like, he's not in this match, but he's on the show. And he's like, nah, Rick Boogs is dead. I'm like, so then when Rick Boogs comes out, I was like, Caden, it's Rick Boogs. And he goes, Rick Boogs. And then he goes back to playing.
Sammy. So Sammy gets the best 10 minutes of his TV career.
Yes. Sammy was both believable, he was entertaining, he was intimidating, and then he was pissing down his leg. And I'm going to say this. Brock, this show, I am assuming because they still had dates on Brock's contract, they had to fire it off for this. This is the most that Brock Lesnar has spoken in 10 years in WWE.
I agree.
He had 3 segments on this show.
Hey, let's go hunting.
And he talked probably more words than Brock Lesnar has talked in his life in the show.
Hey, let's go hunting. Let's go get some help.
The only thing, though, that really irritated me is that apparently he really does enjoy his dual citizenship because he said him and Sammy were Canadians. Brock Lesnar is from Minnesota. Let me look that up, actually. Let me double check that.
So, Sammy, I've never really cared much for you, but that was the best, most entertaining Sammy I've ever seen. So now we're gonna head and tease the whole.
He is from Webster, South Dakota.
And so now we're gonna tease some more.
So he's not a Canadian. Brock, don't call yourself a Canadian just because you live in Canada.
We're teasing more. Where does Paul Heyman's allegiance lie? I'm sure that
Paul Heyman said this phrase: "You are the former and most likely soon-to-be reigning, defending WWE Universal Heavyweight Champion." Ooh,
yeah,
those are some interesting words,
right? And then go ask my advocate. And
So why don't you go ask my advocate, Paul Heyman? Hey, Adam Pearce. I did like the comment that I put on the page. You can go see it, where Brock's like, thank you for that suspension, Adam Pearce. I finally got some time off. And I'm like, motherfucker, you always have time off. You're always on time off. You're never here. You don't get to say, I finally got to take time off. But apparently, Brock shot a moose because Brock loves killing animals. And he named it Pierce in honor of Adam Pearce because Brock had to pay a $1 million fine. Let's talk about the fact, too, that Brock got hit with a $1 million fine and is the highest paid guy on the roster. But who was it 6 months ago? Was it Ken Owens who put his hands on Adam Pearce and he got a $10,000 fine?
Right.
So what is the level of money that's being thrown around here in fines in the WWE?
And apparently because we lost Jeff Hardy versus Happy Corbin this week, we instead got RK Bro and a Who's the Best Tag Team in the World Championship match.
This was dumb.
Which was
it
horrible.
Made no sense. And the funny thing about all this is that Okay, hold on. We're going to backtrack in 1 second here because we missed a match. We missed two things that we need to talk about. And we're going to go through it quick.
Putting a sword through a table?
Yes. The best tag team in the world tournament. There were 3 people.
Two SmackDown teams?
2 SmackDowns and 1 Raw team, because also don't forget that Riddle was on every show this week. He was on Raw. He was on NXT as MSK's Shaman Tag Team Wrestler Guru. And then he was in this show with Randy Orton because I assume they had to call massive audibles. Also, with this, here's something. They did a Twitter poll. Number 1 was RK Bro. Number 2 was Jimmy and Jey Uso. And number 3 was The New Day.
Sir Kofi and King Woods.
Which goes to show you how far the popularity of The New Day has fallen, that they were 3rd on the Twitter poll of greatest tag team of all time. Then we're going to talk about the fact that the people who were the 3rd votest were the people who won.
Yep. What else? So we're sword through the table. Yay.
Drew McIntyre gets angry and puts his sword through a table, and then Happy Corbin and Madcap Monahan, or whatever his freaking name
Steal
is,
the table.
Steal the table with the sword in it. And they're backstage like... So, Baron Corbin's dead.
He stole another sword.
He stole a sword. Apparently, Drew, who proved on Raw that he was a genius by not bringing the actual sword to the ring for Jinder Mahal to steal and chop up, brought a replica, then decided, no, I'm going to bring the real sword, doesn't remember the fact that he needed to keep his sword near him at all times because this is the WWE and somebody will steal or break your stuff. So they steal his family heirloom, which means we are going to get a Drew McIntyre and Happy Corbin promo. No. No, no, no.
Well, they couldn't wrestle Jeff Hardy. He left.
You couldn't have come up with anything better. Now we're going to move on to Toni Storm and Charlotte Flair.
I see if you want to talk about that.
Charlotte Flair, who was apparently decided that she needed to be humbled because she hit Toni Storm in the face. So apparently somebody decided they wanted to see white creamy stuff drip off of Toni Storm's face. So they had Charlotte Flair throw 2 cream-filled pies in her face. So then Toni Storm gets her back by throwing a pie into Charlotte's face last week. So then this week we actually have a wrestling match and there are no pies involved. And how does this match end, Joseph? Well, it ends the same way that Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley's program did, where Charlotte just gets disqualified and then walks away smiling, and Toni Storm looks like a freaking goof.
And
why? Why do people...
And we had 3 different looks of Toni Storm through the whole night. She looked one way in the promo, she looked another way in the interview, and then she looked completely different in the ring.
I'm assuming pre-tape. The other thing with that, too, is this. I assume that someone in the back made advances towards Toni Storm and she shot them down. I'm looking at you, Kevin Dunn. So now Toni Storm is just being buried. Because there is no reason to do this to Toni Storm. And there is no reason, unless, as I said, you are trying to humble Charlotte Flair of why you were doing this to Charlotte Flair. This was terrible. On a dark match, Sasha Banks defeats Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair, and Charlotte Flair.
I never thought I'd say this.
And Becky Lynch apparently got in trouble because she yelled at a 7-year-old that she cost her the match. And the funny thing about that is that we reference back is they made fun of this guy for not acting like a heel, but his wife remembered she's a heel and yelled at a 7-year-old and almost made her cry. And then she was like, "Hey, no, it's like okay, I'm just pretending here, kid." You know. So unfortunately, she also had to remember that they're not allowed to be heels all the time. If it had been me, I'd have looked at them and said, "Screw you, little girl."
Full on MJF.
I would have gone full on MJF. I would have cut a promo. I said this earlier. I'd have cut a promo when they're like, "Hey, you know, I don't go visit cancer wards. I don't need to be depressed. Those children are gonna die anyway." Like, be a heel. If you're going to be a heel on TV, be a heel.
I never thought I'd say this, but man, do we need Bayley back.
Yeah?
All right, so we're going to wrap it up with our final thoughts, and I thought of you. I replaced Powerbomb Pete with our final image for
His
the night.
name is L Bombzilla.
You ready? You ready for this?
I'm ready. I have nothing now. Pat McAfee, I hate you as a human being, but you as a commentator you are me.
You are riding the back of Michael Cole.
And Michael Cole is just like, what is happening here? Pat McAfee is the voice of the voiceless. He is 100% the voice of the fans, and he
is still a fan.
And he tries so hard to do his job and get everything over that he's told to get over, and he does it with such style and grace, except for the fact of he gets so excited that he forgets what he's saying. He absolutely forgets what he's saying, and he's like, but the best part is much like me and you, he also doesn't care. He just keeps going. He just cuts Michael Cole off every time he can. Michael Cole tries to say something, and he's just like,
no,
Squirrel! I still had a thought. I'm going to keep going.
Much like what we do to each other.
Yes, much like what we do here at the Powerbomb Weekly.
Right.
Wrestling kind of sucked this week, except for, once again, AEW had probably the better show, despite some of the stupid things they had on it. I'm looking at the complete destruction of the genius that is Adam Cole and the Young Cucks on their show. That is making me so sad to watch.
It's just it's kind of like everything's not going to be 100%. Just a little bit of it's going to suck.
Well, yeah, but it shouldn't be Adam Cole, baby. And the other thing I could think of is, while I am extremely excited for the athleticism that will take place in the Bryan Danielson, what is his name? In Bryan, I'm just going to start calling him Bryan, because at least that was in both of his things.
Bryan Danielson.
In Bryan's match, the problem...
Just call him the American Dragon.
The issue that I see with that is that so far, the story is going to be the triumphant babyface over the heel who beat up all his friends, and the babyface is finally getting revenge on the guy who took out all of them. Because I don't think Daniel's going to win this match.
No, he doesn't need to.
And he doesn't need to. Don't get me wrong, he doesn't need to. And we saw, for anybody who's a UFC fan, we saw some shocking things happen at their pay-per-view last night. But with that, how much credibility does that hurt Daniel to lose a match for the world title, followed by the fact of, like we said, we wanted to see Hangman Page beat Kenny Omega because it made us feel good.
Right.
How is it going to interact if Hangman beats
Bryan
Danielson?
That is the beauty of AEW. You just don't know. Like,
yeah,
WWE would have had us prepared for the answer already.
Yeah.
And the other thing that is the beauty of AEW is they diminish. They so rarely have an FU finish. They like clean finishes.
Yes.
Now, granted, the clean finish may have had dubious things happen behind, but it's not a count out. It's not a disqualification. It maybe somebody got hit with a belt and the referee didn't see it. But it's still better than this being a double disqualification.
Yeah, I mean, that's the question I have for this. Is that the only place that they have to go for this match? Is there going to have to be... Is someone showing up?
Unless the American Dragon has someone come show up and help him win.
Well, I was going to say, is somebody going to show up and it lead to a DQ?
They don't do that very often.
I know, but I mean, they usually do it after the fact.
Right.
Like they did it with Don Callis and Omega. They did it with whatever and whatever. But is the only way to get out of this and have the comeback is to have... Because if Hangman beats Daniel, he beats, really, in my opinion, the only credible threat that he has in AEW right now, aside from, and I don't like him, but Miro.
MJF.
MJF is in a program with Punk. So if MJF beats Punk, he has to be next in line, but where does that leave Punk? And then you have both of the two veteran fan favorites have lost their matches. So that has a problem there. I mean, this is interesting, and I like the way... I mean...
That's what makes this great!
I was shocked, but not surprised when... That's a dumb statement. Let me try that
No, it's not. Not what it comes to this.
I was pleasantly surprised, but shocked that Cornette named Tony Khan Booker of the Year on his end of the year polls. But he's not wrong. Tony Khan at this point, regardless of a lot of stuff, and as I said, go back a year ago and watch me trash AEW for the stupid things that they did. But in 6-7 months, Tony Khan has managed to right the ship mostly in a positive direction. He's still got a little bit of wave, but for the most part, everything he's doing works. It's interesting. He has the pieces in place. He has the right time, the right frame to do everything. And on the other counterpoint to it for Vince and them, I don't think Vince and them knew what to do if we had another network with a positive wrestling show that the fans were behind, and they literally just gave them all of the talent that they said couldn't get over, that the fans wanted to see get over, kick their ass with them.
Well, here's the thing: if this was WWE, if Vince was running, we would have had 3 weeks ago. We would have had a
we would have had
Daniel Bryan versus Adam Page to see if there could be a match.
Yes.
And Daniel Bryan would have gone over. And then we would have had a tag team match.
Ah, yes.
We would have a tag team match. And then we would have had another tag team match.
But then we would have had to have had Daniel and Hangman have a match together against 2 other people to see if they could coexist. That would have been this week's Rampage, or last week's Rampage, of they would have to have had a match together as teams to figure out if they could coexist.
That's the beauty of AEW, is you don't see very many of the same matches.
Yeah. I had a question for that when we talked about that of, is that good or bad for them because we're not getting to see the familiarity and the story arcs of certain things happen because we're always getting a changeover? But then I realized that
they come back around.
They do come back around, and we're getting a full picture of kind of where Tony Khan's at right now. And you know what? I really said I thought they shot themselves in the foot when they started, and I do believe they did. But luckily, they were able to not shoot themselves in both foots, and they're able to kind of move forward because they had the incredible fan base and the athleticism of the performers to fall back on. That when they made a booking mistake, they could still have a great match to get out of it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's really interesting, is we're going to get a great match, but where is our booking going to go of who goes up, who goes over, and if we need to come back to this because we don't have that question answered, how do we get out of this? Mm-hmm. And the only thing I see is there has to be some sort of interference that causes a disqualification. Mm-hmm. And I know that they don't want to do that, and it's probably going to leave a sour taste. But
so Moxley?
He's in rehab. I don't think he's going to come back this early from rehab. I don't think he should, honestly. You need to take time and heal. Obviously, we're not seeing Kenny come back. The only thing I can think of is I would have said...
Wyatt?
I would have said Adam Cole and the Young Bucks go after Hangman, which causes the disqualification, but he's in a program with Orange Cassidy right now for some stupid reason.
The only person that's being mismanaged in AEW right now is Malachi Black, because he's kind of floundering.
I was like, maybe Malachi Black shows up. Because much like we talked about in the past, he can't just keep debuting new people and get that pop.
Miro makes it interesting because, he's God has forsaken me.
Miro on the roster right now is the only person, and like I said, I don't like him, but Miro is the only person who makes sense to me right now, who's a credible threat, who could work, who could easily come out, and they could have something spiral from
and
this.
It's a good story because of the whole God, you've forsaken me, where's my purpose?
It's perfect for it.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I am excited for that. When we come back to WWE, I am so less excited to watch it because I just...
It's telegraphed.
It's
the same people. It's the look. If you go back and look at these worksheets and go, that match happened, that match happened, that match happened, that match happened.
Even if they had that, it's just they have devalued. That's the word that you used a minute ago. They've devalued so much.
There is nobody else
of their talent that.
So let's say Brock wins. Let's say Brock loses. Let's just pretend Brock loses on day one.
Okay.
There's nobody left to fight Roman Reigns.
But why would we want Brock to win on day one anyway?
I'm just saying, there's nobody left to fight Roman Reigns on that roster. There's nobody. Drew McIntyre.
That's the only person they have, and he's stuck in a mid-card. Drew McIntyre is the only thing that makes sense because they had that great match last year at Survivor Series. I mean, that should have been...
So then Drew McIntyre gets it. Then some goober is going to beat Drew McIntyre that devalued all of Roman Reigns' work.
Yeah, so they have they have booked themselves into a hole where Tony Khan booked himself out of a hole and on to dry land, basically.
Drew McIntyre. I mean, not Drew McIntyre. Seth. The Tribal Chief is currently 1987 Hulk Hogan. There's nobody to beat him.
Well, isn't that a certain... Well, no. There were people to beat Hogan. Roddy Piper.
There's nobody...
Ric Flair.
Nobody took a belt off of him for like 10 years.
Yeah, well, it was 3. It was 3. But, maybe it was 4. It's 3 or 4 years is how long Hogan was. But Hogan was also basically unbeaten during that entire time. There are people to beat Roman Reigns.
But well, what had happened?
Because, truthfully, the guy who could have beat Roman Reigns was Finn Balor.
Also Kevin Owens was also...
No, Kid Owens, no.
Also, Daniel Bryan should have beat him.
Daniel Bryan, yes. The Edge for the feel-good moment of the end of Edge's career, but I guess they want to get mileage out of that.
There have been people that made it look like he could win. Big E could look like he could have beat him, but it wouldn't have mattered anyway.
Big E should have beat him at Survivor Series.
We already said that.
But yes, with that, I mean, they do have a hole, and truthfully, they have nobody new that's been brought up enough, and they just lost everybody who was there credible long enough to do it. And there's, I tell you,
20 seconds.
20 seconds. I tell you who there is, who they have right now, who I think truly feel is going to be the guy to dethrone Roman Reigns.
Walter.
No, that's who I want.
Oh,
Braun Breaker.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We will be back next week, hopefully. And we actually stayed on our timeline for the most part. So, yay.
Braun Breaker at WrestleMania for Roman Reigns?
Maybe. I think Braun Breaker needs to get the NXT belt first, but we'll talk about that next week.